Once a year, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway fills with nearly 500,000 people. But even in the vast crowd, a driver like Rick Mears is alone with his thoughts, his hopes, his fears. At 210 miles an hour, man must be ready for the split-second decisions that determine his destiny. The lineage of champions extends back 77 years. The man who wins today writes his name in history to join 52 others with the title Champion of the Indianapolis 500. The world's greatest race course, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Today, it's the 72nd running of the Indianapolis 500-mile race. Well, a giant crowd has assembled at the 2.5-mile oval that is the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and by race time itself, it's expected that nearly 500,000 people will fill. Around the world, race drivers dream of having their names etched on the Borg-Warner Trophy as champions of the Indianapolis 500. The idea began 80 years ago, a model racetrack carved out of Indiana farmland. The dream of Carl Fisher of the ultimate proving ground for the 23-year-old automobile industry. The vision became reality, a 2.5-mile rectangle paved with brick, destined for history. But history would prove the Speedway could give and take away.
Louis Meyer back home again in Victory Lane in Indiana. No one has ever won it 3 times before. Louis Meyer sliding down to the wall. The car out of control. Louis out of the car on the track. We may have seen his last lap at Indianapolis.
Victory at the Speedway can convey the supreme exhilaration.
And he knows he's won. A long day coming to an end. We're looking at the 1938 winner of the Indianapolis 500, Floyd Roberts.
But from those same people, the Speedway can demand the ultimate price.
Bob Swanson out of control. Floyd Roberts becoming involved in the accident. Out of the arena. Floyd Roberts over the wall. There's fire on the track. We have, and there's Jeff Miller, but Roberts is out of sight.
In the the 500-mile race, some men accomplish what for others is impossible.
Will win his third Indianapolis 500, a great comeback after last year's disappointing season for him. And there's an accident on the front straightaway. 2, 3, 4 cars. West Point. I don't know whether they can get through or not. Hitting the wall. Bouncing back across the straightaway. Point's only got a couple hundred yards to go, but where is he? There he is. He's going to get through. Will win the Indianapolis 500 in an incredible, thrilling finish.
It is at the Speedway that destinies are determined in the wink of an eye.
He may do it. Yeah, he may. He's that close. Look at that. Shallow line. They're going to get the white flag. There'll be one left to go. As he moves along, tries for short knock. Is he going to do it? The white flag out. This is the final lap. Going down into the first turn. What? No! Gordon held him off there going into that first turn. Can he make a move at the finish? He's making a move. No! 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 Not quite. Gordon Johnson has won the Indianapolis 500. He won it by less than a car length.
The Indianapolis 500, however, is not just men and machines or winning and losing. It is a stage of human emotion, the great victories, the great defeats. It is truly a human spectacle, a spectacle of speed. The quest for speed has unquestionable danger. It also has incomparable rewards. A year of planning and a lifetime of preparation comes to an end as 33 teams wait for the green flag. Since 1911, 580 men and 1 woman have started the afternoon drive to glory. 143 have led. Only 52 have won. Today, the vision of a single man has grown to the dreams of thousands. The Indianapolis 500-mile race. Race. It's a mixture of gigantic crowds, lightning speed, certain peril, teamwork, individual courage, and incredible reward. For many, it is the ultimate dream. Each May, the legions of racers and their fans flock to the heartlands of Indiana. They come in search of speed and glory. Success here is the ultimate high for a racer. Failure can be devastating. A life can be changed in the flicker of an eye. All the years of tradition were manifest last year in this single moment. 2 men, each with a lifelong dream, racing at the limit, racing for themselves, racing for their teams, racing for a place in history. Some are young, brash, aggressive. They come from a background in midgets and sprint cars with a long family racing legacy. Others come from across the sea, mature, studied, driven with many championships to their credit. Different men from vastly different backgrounds, focused on the same goal. A white line painted on a yard of brick, 500 miles ahead. The planning, the training, the preparation of generations crystallized in a single moment. 2 men mastering the raging power of a high-tech wonder, screaming toward a single point too narrow for both. 2 men refusing to give an inch. 2 men willing to pay the ultimate price. But there can be only one winner, only one champion. The rewards are measured in more than dollars. It is a moment at the pinnacle in motorsports. The Indianapolis champion joins a line that stretches back into history. The dream of an Indianapolis victory is shared by thousands, but it can be possessed only by a single man. The 500-mile odyssey is about to begin again. And at the end of the road, a likeness in silver on an aging trophy. And another name will be added to the list of champions of the Indianapolis 500. There were 3 million paving blocks in 1911. Today, only a yard of brick remains. The 2.5-mile path is surrounded by steel and concrete, silent sentries to the history made here. It is a legacy of speed. Between these walls, the risks are great. Emotions come from both ends of the spectrum. The Indianapolis 500-mile race is quite simply a spectacle, a celebration of technology and humanity. Today, it celebrates the Diamond Anniversary running. It was no different when the track was first planned. The first 500 was the spectacle of its day. The giant track beckoned the best of the age, and 80,000 fans, many arriving by horse and buggy. Ray Haroon won the first challenge. Since then, the lineage has raced on. Men who share a special look, the brotherhood of the best. Down the years, they have sought a common goal, victory in the Indianapolis 500. In 1925, Pete DiPaolo averaged 100 miles an hour. Today, 220 is the standard. In the 30s, the cars led the technology, cast iron and shaped sheet metal. Today, titanium and carbon fiber define the ultimate racing machine. Space-age electronics now help tame the raging horsepower. Danger has always been a passenger. Like the track and the speed, it is a constant, ever present. It, too, is a part of the lure. Without that risk, the men are just ordinary. In a flash, a skilled drive transforms to disaster. But man can and does survive the machine. This spring has proven no exception. The fates strike at random. Rick Mears, one of the best. Mark Disbour, one of the rookies. Or veteran Randy Lewis. Each spent his moment over the edge. But man triumphs, as did Rick a day later, in a new car to take the pole at over 224 miles an hour. Now the heroes of this age wait. They weigh the odds, consider the risks, and they pray the dream today will be theirs. As much changes over 75 races, much stays the same. Skilled hands still lovingly caress and coax the ultimate performance. 34 years ago, A.J. Foyt was an apprentice. Today, he is a master, starting in the center of the front row. In '61, Tony Bentonhausen died chasing a victory. Today, his son may fulfill his father's dream. 26 years ago, the rookie stripes came off for Mario. Today, there are 4 Andretti's. Now the 500's first African-American and first Japanese will join the line. Jules Gu drank 6 bottles of champagne on his road to victory. Today, it's a frosty bottle of milk that awaits the eventual winner. That and so much more. The Yard of Bricks have witnessed the high-speed passage of history. In just a few hours, 500 miles from now, a 75th story will have been written. A new likeness will be added to a timeless silver cup, and a new name will sit atop the lineage of the greatest spectacle in racing, the Indianapolis 500. Waiting is about to come to an end. The 2.5 miles beckon. Indianapolis is about speed. The quickest driver, the ultimate lap. No race is faster. No race is closer or more difficult. But Indy is much more. The 500-mile race is a celebration, a spectacle, the largest single gathering of people for a sporting event. Indianapolis is dangerous. Its narrow road and concrete walls tear at man and machine. A skillful drive can turn to disaster without warning. But the quickest times are bound just inches from the walls. It is there the poles must drive, searching for the fastest lap. Even the bravest are not without fear.
There's not been a race I have not been in that at one time or another I hadn't scared myself. And I'm one of the few that admit it. I know you got a bunch of brave heroes out there say they're not scared of nothing. All I can say, they've never run fast enough or they've never been hurt.
To drive Indy requires skill. To race at the front, dedication. To win, courage. A champion must push beyond fear. The four corners at Indianapolis draw out a special significance.
You know, there comes a time in a race where money doesn't matter, living doesn't matter, winning is the only thing that matters. And so when you go into those corners, it's winning that tells all.
This past month at Indianapolis has challenged the elite, even the best. Like four-time champion Rick Mears came face-to-face with his own frailty. Rick would walk away. Three-time world champion Nelson Piquet barely escaped. But running on and over the edge is the only way to succeed, the only path to victory in the Indianapolis 500-mile race.
This place, more than any other, will probably push it to the limit, the very limit, because there's so much at stake. And there comes a time when you just say, man, gotta go for it.
The time is now. 33 of the fastest have accepted the challenge and are ready for racing's ultimate test. 500 miles on a Sunday afternoon in Indiana. Where will the road take them? Too close to the walls? Or to victory lane with its fame and fortune? Indy is a human struggle against all odds. It brings pain and anguish, while at the same time, incomparable reward. In its 81-year history, 589 drivers have started the run. But the Indianapolis 500 has only permitted 54 to make the final turn into victory lane. As this day begins, the focus is 200 laps away. An antique cup waits for the new champion. Whose likeness will be molded in silver to join the historic line? The 500 miles lie ahead. Live.
The Indianapolis Motor Speedway stands empty most of the year. On race day, it comes alive.
The silent track waits for traditional ceremonies. The long straightaways beckon the sleek machines and their brave pilots. Once a year, the grandstands fill, and each year adds to history. Speed was a part of the mix from the very first race. Ray Haroon, averaging 74 miles an hour, took the first checkered flag. In 1925, Peter Paulo was the first to average over 100 miles an hour. 65 years later, Holland's Arie Luyendyk drove the fastest race ever at over 185 miles an hour. Arie's first IndyCar win was worth $1 million. This year, too, the Speedway has been kind to Arie. The track is as important as speed. The 40s were tough on the Brickyard, beginning with a race morning garage fire in 1941. It was deserted during the war and became a shambles. Today, it's a proud monument to its owner's love of the sport. There have been great moments of emotion. Sam Hanks, after 12 tries, driving tearfully into victory lane and retiring. Or 2 weeks ago, when the grand champion took his last lap. There were tears here, too. Indy draws drivers from around the globe. The start in 1966 saw a crash that eliminated most contenders. 500 miles later, Formula One champion Englishman Graham Hill wore the winner's wreath. Last year, three-time Formula One champion Nelson Piquet was eliminated in a devastating crash in practice. Today, he is back. Now, the reigning Formula One champion Nigel Mansell is trying to duplicate Hill's feat. His teammate, Mario Andretti, won here in 1969. Since then, he has been ravaged by bad luck. Today, the most experienced driver in the field starts in the middle of the front row. Here, history has a way of repeating itself. In 1982, a crash at the start eliminated 3 contenders. The race ended with Gordon Johncock beating Rick Mears in the closest finish to that date. Last year, pole sitter Roberto Guerrero's race ended even before the start. 500 miles later, Al Unser Jr. beat Scott Goodyear by the closest margin ever. All 3 are back, called again by the Brickyard's challenge. The Speedway is constantly changing. In 1991, Rick Mears passed Michael Andretti on the outside to take his 4th 500 flag. Today, Rick is retired, tutoring Paul Tracy. And Michael is trying his skill in Formula One. Last Sunday saw the unkindest cut of all as defending PPG champion Bobby Rahal was bumped from the qualifying field. Every driver here today is well aware that a monster lurks behind the Speedway's wall. A moment's lapse can spell disaster. The new breed of challengers know the road can be hard. Paul Tracy is coming off of his first win. Robbie Gordon drives under the guidance of A.J. Foyt. Stefan Gregoire at 24 is the youngest driver and the fastest rookie. Brazilian Raul Boisel will start in the front row. Swede Stefan Johansson looks to his first 500. The waiting is over. Loving hands have prepared the cars, hoping theirs will carry its passenger to victory lane, its bottle of cold milk, and the Borg Warner trophy. It is the pinnacle moment in a driver's life. 200 laps ahead, an antique silver cup waits for a new name to be added. The challenge of the Brickyard begins again. There are 500 miles to go. Live from the world's greatest race. These are the eyes of Mario Andretti, Indianapolis 500 champion. Your eyes may see 33 race cars roaring around the Speedway every Memorial Day weekend. But these eyes have seen and lived the race for the past 4 decades. When these eyes were 25 years young, they were wide and probing as they saw for the first time the Speedway history and tradition. The first time on the track, the rookie test, then the Speedway's 49th Indianapolis 500. Today, they'll again see the Speedway's time-honored traditions of fanfare and spectacle. Mario Andretti's eyes have seen the huge crowds that flock to the Speedway each year. Today, they'll scan a crowd of over 500,000 people. The eyes are the windows to the soul. These eyes reveal the very core of a man who has raced in 28 Indy 500s. Here is a man who has won at Daytona, who has been crowned the Formula One champion, and his personal pinnacle, a win at Indy. But that was a quarter of a century ago. Since then, he's won races and championships. But these eyes have too often seen the frustrations of driving the Brickyard. Even Mario's eyes stared in disbelief from within the bizarre wreck at the start in '82. A moment that ignited the fiery Andretti passion. These eyes have followed the march of technology in racing. They first peered out of this car in 1965. He won in this car 4 years later. Today, they'll look out of the cockpit of a racing machine that seems futuristic. With technology, Mario's eyes have adapted to the increases in speed, 170 miles an hour at first. Today, 240 miles an hour on the straightaways. These are the wizened eyes of the Andretti patriarch. The apple of his eye is son Michael, who has raced at the front of the pack at Indy, wheel to wheel with Rick Mears in 1991. But it was Mears who won the race, and Michael Andretti has yet to win at Indianapolis. These eyes have winced at the brutal realities of the Speedway's dangers. His own son Jeff, mangled in this horrifying crash. These eyes watching helplessly. And Mario himself has been bitten by this dangerous arena. 1992, this was turn 4, as he saw it. These are the eyes of America's most famous racer. Eyes that have guided Mario Andretti through thrilling days at the Brickyard. They saw the checkered flag of victory in '69. They saw an appeals court overturn his apparent second win 6 months after the race in 1981. Danny Sullivan spun right before these very eyes, and then went on to win the race from Mario in 1985. He has driven in the races that were decided by the closest finishes in Indy history. 1982, Gordon Johncock and Rick Mears separated at the finish by the blink of an eye. And 2 years ago, Al Unser Jr. and Scott Goodyear, less than a car length apart. Today, these eyes will peer out of the visor in Indianapolis for the final time. Next year and beyond, the race will be run without Mario Andretti in one of the 33 cars.
These eyes will be outside, looking in. And although these eyes remain fierce and proud, these eyes may shed tears at the end of his final ending. Mario has lived to race, to drive the Indianapolis 500. For it will always be the greatest spectacle in racing in the eyes of Mario Andretti.
Racing in America, a dynamic mix of technology, competition, and history. This year marks the beginning of the second century of American racing. The sport has always been immensely popular. The Vanderbilt Cup races in New York at the turn of the century drew gigantic crowds. As the new sport evolved, heroes emerged. The drivers, the human element inside the cockpits, the men who piloted the machines. 1911. A new racing facility in Indianapolis staged the ultimate test of man and technology, a 500-mile race. An automobile engineer for the Marmon Corporation, Ray Haroon, won the race in his company's car and was an instant hero to the large crowd. The Indianapolis 500 rapidly grew to become the premier event in American auto racing. The speeds increased. Enormous crowds came to see thrilling competition amongst drivers who grew to legendary status. A race driver's career, then as now, would be defined by his performance at Indianapolis.
There's an accident in the front straightaway. Where's Boyd? I don't know whether he can get through or not. He's only got a couple hundred yards to go, but where is he? There he is! A.J. Boyd will win the Indianapolis 500 in an incredible, thrilling finish.
And the 500 has been defined by the skill of the driver.
Over the roar of the engine, you can hear the 400,000 people going forth. No one has ever seen this before in Indianapolis. Not quite over. John Buck still with the lead. There you see them. Did he make a move at the finish? He's making a move. No, not quite. Oh, John has won the Indianapolis 500. He won it by less than a car length.
The cheers are for those who accept the danger with daring, those who strive for the ultimate victory.
Fittipaldi comes inside Little Al. A drag race on the backside again. Slower traffic moves to the right. Can Fittipaldi get past? Little Al brings it down low. They touch. Little Al into the wall. Fittipaldi continues on. Little Al slams the wall as Emerson Fittipaldi screams toward the white flag.
Unser and Fittipaldi struggled again last Sunday and fell short. Both failed to qualify for today's race, leaving this event a wide-open competition. An antique silver cup carries the name and likeness of the great Indy champion. Two men in particular have come so close to their dream, but have yet to win the great race.
They make the turn for home now. On the main stretch, Scott Goodyear closes in. Goodyear tries it, but no.
I believe that's the closest finish in Indy history.
Al Unser Jr. is a winner at the Indianapolis 500.
Scott Goodyear finished second in that race, but today he starts on the front row with his best chance to add his name to the list of champions.
The green flag is back out, and Rick Mears comes around John Andretti. He's no factor whatsoever, but Michael is right there with him. Michael moving to the outside. Can he keep in the high groove? He did it at Phoenix. Can he do it here? Michael Andretti takes the lead away from Rick Mears. Wow!
But it was Rick who won that thrilling duel in '91. Now more than ever, Michael Andretti, whose famous father Mario won the race only once, would like to carve his own name on the silver cup. Arie Luyendyk has already won here. He and teammate Scott Breitner are the two fastest qualifiers with the most powerful cars. If they prove reliable, they may be unbeatable. 100 years ago, America's first ever automobile race. The spectators followed the two racing cars on foot. Today, 33 drivers will pilot their race cars at speeds over 240 miles an hour in front of 500,000 people. A new face and name will be added to the old Silver Cup. A new champion of the greatest spectacle in racing, the Indianapolis 500.
There is nothing else like it. The start of the Indianapolis 500. Today is the 80th running of the great race, and 33 cars will fly over the same bricks at the start-finish line that were laid here for the first race in 1911. It was a huge event then. It's even bigger today, the largest single-day sporting event in the world. Indy is the premier race in the sport of oval track racing, a dynamic mix of technology, skill, and danger. Flying over those historic bricks, drivers have become the heroes of American racing. Ray Haroon won that first race. Louis Meyer became the first three-time winner. A.J. Foyt, the first to win 4 times. Rick Mears equaled that record. For Mario Andretti, his 1969 victory would be his only one at Indianapolis. The Unsers, Bobby, Al Sr., and Little Al have combined for 9 victories in the last 28 years. But this race will be run in large part by a new breed of performer, the drivers of the Indy Racing League. Buzz Calkins, young, sharp. He raced against his father to develop his skills. He won the RL's first race back in January on the Walt Disney World circuit. Tony Stewart, a 3-division USAC Oval champion, faces tremendous pressure today. As an Indy rookie, he will start on the pole after his teammate, Scott Brayton, was fatally injured last week in practice. This man is the fastest in Speedway history. Murray Lyondike qualified at nearly 237 miles an hour. He is the only driver in today's race to have won the 500. Today's winner may be unfamiliar to you now, but tomorrow his name will be in headlines in every newspaper in America. Like others before him, he will drink cold milk from a bottle in Victory Lane. His likeness will go on the famous BorgWarner trophy, and he will join Haroon, Foyt, Mears, the Unsers, and Mario Andretti as a champion of the Indianapolis 500. Live, ABC's Wide World of Sports presents the 80th running of the Indianapolis 500-mile race. Well, it was raining early this morning at the Speedway, but it stopped about 7:30, and you can see and hear the jet dryers that are on the track almost completing their job of getting the track surface clear as they pass by just a few feet away. There's one of them there, a jet engine spraying exhaust out to help dry that track.
Spanning the globe to bring you the constant variety of sport. The thrill of victory. Did you know what Indy means? And the agony of defeat. The human drama of athletic competition. This is ABC's Wide World of Sport.
At Indianapolis, the rain has gone. The skies are clearing. The cars, the crews, and the fans are ready to go racing. The Indianapolis 500, a cornerstone of the American sporting landscape. Many of our great racing heroes have been defined by their accomplishments on this 2.5-mile oval. The Speedway has no greater hero than A.J. Foyt. His 35 performances on the Indianapolis stage have included tantrums, tears, and 4 Indy wins. Danny Sullivan took the lead in the 1985 race, then rescued his spinning race car with a heroic effort that saved his car and won him the race. Since 1911, this event has grown in scope and stature, fueled by the deeds of America's greatest racers. The Unser brothers, Al and Bobby, gave the crowd steely performances that won 7 races between them. Then Al Unser Jr. racked up huge hero points in this thrilling duel to the finish.
Can Fittipaldi get past? Little Al brings it down low. They touch. Little Al into the wall. Fittipaldi continues on.
3 years later, Little Al, with this magnificent sprint to the finish, won the closest race in Indy history. This is a dangerous sport, yet the allure of victory in Indianapolis is a powerful force. Mario Andretti was the dashing young winner of the 69 race, but his star-crossed efforts to win again made him heroic in his failure. No winning performance in Indianapolis can match the heroics of Buddy Lazier a year ago. In March, he broke his back in 38 places. In May, he returned to the cockpit to drive the 500-mile race. 8 laps from the finish, he took the lead, and then went on to win the great race in storybook fashion. Today, 35 5 drivers pursue the quest for racing's greatest prize. It is a day for heroic performance. The risks are considerable, but the reward is the ultimate. Victory in the Indianapolis 500. ABC's Wide World of Sports continues the tradition of live coverage at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. It's the greatest spectacle in racing, the 81st running of the Indianapolis 500. The Indianapolis 500 champion. Since 1911, the man who wins this race each year becomes a true hero of American sports. The Super Bowl hero. The Masters champion. The Indy 500 winner joins this elite group, for the driver who wins this event has won the biggest automobile race. He has the fastest car and has driven it better than anyone else. Victory at Indianapolis gives a driver all the stature of a World Series MVP. The winner of this race revels in the same glory as an American Olympic champion. They have all realized the supreme accomplishment in their sport.
You just don't know what Indy means.
Today, 33 drivers will make the high-speed charge to Indy's checkered flag. One man will defeat all the rest. His story will be told 1,000 times over. His name will appear in tomorrow's headlines. He will be famous and wealthy, and for the rest of his life, he will be known as a winner of the world's greatest race, the Indianapolis 500. Live from Indianapolis, ABC Sports proudly presents the drivers and teams of the Pep Boys Indy Racing League in the 82nd running of the Indianapolis 500-mile race. This is Paul Page. It rained in Indianapolis overnight, but the...
You're watching ABC's Wide World of Sports.
When you have won the Indianapolis 500, it becomes the defining moment of your life.
Buddy Lazier, 1996.
Gordon Johncock, 73 and 82.
He's making a move! No! No! Not quite!
It was a battle. Eddie Cheever, 98.
Jim Rathman, 60.
Mario Andretti, 69. My life has never been the same since I won the Indianapolis 500.
Rick Mears, 79, 84, 88, and 91.
Little Al, 92 and 94.
He looks for a place to come by. Scott Goodyear tries it, but no.
The closest finish in Indy history.
Al Sr., 70, 71, 78, 87.
Roy Lyondike, 90 and 97.
Hanoi Jones, 63.
Roger Ward, 59 and 62.
Johnny Rutherford, 74, 76, and 80.
There's one race to win, and it's
The Indy 500.
The biggest thrill is to be called the Indy 500 champion.
Tom Sneva, 83.
Kenny Brack, 1999 Indianapolis 500 winner.
Bobby Anser, 68, 75, and 81.
Emerson Fittipaldi, 89 and 93.
They touch. Little Al under the wall. Fittipaldi continues on.
The Indianapolis 500.
The greatest spectacle in racing.
Danny Sullivan, 1985 winner.
Sullivan has the lead. Danny Sullivan. Oh, and just at that moment, losing control of the car.
Spin and win.
Bobby Rahal, 1986 winner.
Jacques Villeneuve, 1995 winner.
Juan Montoya, 2000 winner.
33 drivers, one winner.
Local favorite Tony Stewart comes back on this day of many happy returns, as does the exalted team owner Roger Penske with his drivers Gilles de Ferran and Helio Castroneves. Michael Andretti comes back as well, and so does the two-time winner Arie Luyendyk.
A.J. Foyt, the only five-time winner, his owner and driver. Came here in 1958, I've never left. The Indianapolis 500, the greatest race in the world.
And hello and welcome to Court Vision's coverage of the Indianapolis 500K for the CORT IndyCar Project. David Amboise alongside Chris Burke here tonight for the coverage of the 4-year in the waiting Indianapolis 500K. Tonight, 125 laps, 500 kilometers will help determine who will be our 2020 Indy 500 champion. David Amboise, Chris Burke. Chris Burke, this is the biggest race in CORT's recent memory, and it's going to be a good one here tonight.
Absolutely, Dave. It's a wonderful day for some CORT IndyCar action. I've been waiting myself for a really long time to see the return of IndyCar for CORT. This is the 11th Indy 500K for CORT history. We got a long list of winners. We've got a very stacked field tonight with really talented drivers. I think it's going to be a good time.
And we got a really, really good one for you here tonight. We had qualifying 1 week ago here on CORT Vision. We saw 56 drivers try and make the 33-car field, and it looks as if we'll have just about every single one of those 33. There are a couple that have been bumped out of the field as they are not going to be able to make it here tonight. We know Chris Sweat, who originally qualified, I believe, 27th, is now out of the field and has been replaced by Dylan Gooden, and a couple more there too. I believe also Andrew Hayes and DeMonte Dotson might possibly make the field here when all is said and done. So we have 35 in the server, but only 33 will start here tonight. And let's talk about some of the drivers, some of the favorites here tonight. And if we are going to talk about favorites for this Indianapolis 500K, we got to talk about the pole sitter Mitchell Briggs.
That's right, Dave. Mitchell Briggs, extremely young driver from Carbondale, Illinois. Pardon my language there. He's been extremely fast in all CORT competition this season so far. In the National Cup Series races, he's been fast in the B car. He posted one heck of a lap time, and he's been running really fast in practice today, a fast lap of 40.396. I think he's going to be one to beat today, although honestly, my sights right now are set on John Eckert, the man to beat in all CORT competition in 2020.
Yeah, that's Johnny Eckert right there on your screen, the candy apple red and white machine. He is leading this final practice for the Indianapolis 500K. This is effectively carb day practice right now. This is the last little bit of track time that these drivers will get, and there will be no other qualifying. We will be going straight into our 125 lap race here tonight. So it's going to be a really exciting one here tonight. Johnny Eckert is going to be starting third when this is all get going. Second in practice is the driver who will be starting second, and that's Alex Boffoli. Here he sits on the pit lane as it stands, as he is not quite out on the racetrack. He will start second, and of course he's the former winner of this event 3 times running, looking for win number 4 in the Indianapolis 500K.
That's right. This is the 11th running tonight. Like I said, we have 10 winners, only 7 drivers, and only 3 of them, I believe, are in the field tonight, Dave.
Yeah, a lot of new faces to this. It's been 4 years since the Championship Online Racing Teams has run any sort of IndyCar event, so this is a big deal, and we're seeing that by you guys out on Twitch. We are seeing the chat room out on Twitch. We can see you very active here tonight. We hope to entertain you here with this Indianapolis 500K live from Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Let's take a look at the weather for tonight's event. This is going to be a slick racetrack. 118 degrees is the track temperature. Air temperature 73 degrees. Not going to see much cloud cover too, and the wind is not going to be much of a factor, blowing to the southwest at 3 to 5 miles an hour here tonight. And Indianapolis, not much left to say about this venue. Historic, over 100 years old, 2.5 miles, 9 degrees of banking in the corners, and it's going to be really interesting to see how these guys handle this. Now, there was a little bit of a setup change during the week between the qualifying session and this Indianapolis 500K, a slight setup change which saw the drivers get a little bit of a more maneuverable setup, and it seems to be pretty well received.
That's right, David. I spoke to some drivers before the race tonight, and they said the biggest issue right now is going to be tire fall off. Right now, a fuel run for these cars is going to be about 30 laps or so at its hard limit. So if you're really good and you time it just right, you may be able to put this race in the bag with only 4 pit stops. It's more likely you're going to have 5 stops for fuel. That being said, I've also been told that after 10 or 15 laps or so, that race pace drops off like a rock, and those cars slow down quite a bit as people try and hit those fuel numbers. I think tonight's race winner is going to be able to do it with 4 stops.
Yeah, and it's going to be really interesting to see that. Our fuel numbers looking at roughly about 125 laps in this race. So you're looking at probably pitting, like you said, 4 times here tonight. So it's going to be really, really vital to make sure you get the fuel numbers right. And the other thing is Indianapolis does not forgive. That Indiana concrete will come up on you on a hurry.
That's true, Dave. And we've seen with all those Delta Force intros tonight that a carb day, practice, qualifying, it doesn't matter. Drivers from the past, anybody can be taken very easily by this track.
Yeah, and that's what's going to be something to watch out for. We got about 2.5 minutes until this Indianapolis 500K. And why don't we go ahead and tell you a little bit about this starting lineup here tonight for the Indianapolis 500K. And Chris, I believe you've got the list there. You want to go ahead and let us know who is starting on the front row here tonight?
Absolutely. Tonight's starting lineup for your 2020 CORT Indianapolis 500K on row 1 inside, it's Mitchell Riggs from Carbondale, Illinois in the Hair Club 09. Outside, Alex Buffoli, past champion from New York in the 08 Target car. Row 2, inside, John Eckert from Nassau County, New York in the number 90 Strava St. Jude car, and outside in the number 55 of Tyler Tucker from Washington, D.C. in the Gallagher Insurance Indy car. Row 3, inside, Brandon Ward from Miami, Florida in the Thule 57 Indy car, and outside the number 4 Brett Black in the Brett Black Racing Driven to Save Lives Indy car. Row 4, inside, Kevin Bingle, the number 44 Zippo car, and outside, Kite Bomersbach from San Antonio, Texas in the number 37. Row 5, inside, Aaron Bean from Tampa, Florida in the number 20 Home Depot car, and outside, Stephen Moore in the number 69. Row 6, inside, Kieran Brugelli, a non-court driver in the number 27 from California, Fast 4 Esports No Limit Racing. Outside, Bakersfield, California's own Johnny Parham in the number 91 Texaco Haviland machine. Row 7, inside, number 24 of Andrew Hess from Illinois in the Delphi Indy car, and Ricky Butler outside of row 7 in the number 10 Big Storm Brewing car from Florida. Row 8, Albany, New York's James Gutta in the number 86 Valvoline car, and outside, Fullerton, California's Patrick Brattain, number 66 Red 6 Race Gear car. Row 9, you're inside, Canada's own Mike Husby. The White Mamba is here in the number 6 Lucas Oil car. Outside, Zane Jackson in the number 53 Jif Peanut Butter car. Row 10, inside, Jeffrey Miller from Indiana, Indiana's grown Indy car. And outside, Taylor Hayes, I believe, was a scratch, Dave. Is that correct?
Do not see him out here on the list, so he will be one of the cars that will not qualify, and that will bump in Kyle Pogrefsky, but I believe Kyle Pogrefsky will not be participating, so I believe that might bump in Andrew Hayes into the field. Row 11, we'll see Joseph Cervone out of Long Island, New York. He's in the Red Bull LGBT Network car. On the outside of that row will be Robert Hill Jr. in the Spark VR entry. He's out of Ottawa, Ontario. Nick Stoller out of North Carolina. He's in the William Rass number 98. And Tony Johns, originally out of Indiana, now finding Arizona home. He's in the Drive First Trading Paints Mankind entry. John Long in the Fountain RX machine. He's out of Knoxville, Tennessee. And Julian Medora out of Halifax, Nova Scotia in the Reichert's Red entry. Brian Scheibler in the Costa entry will start in the inside of row 14. And then we will see a little bit of a bump there. It's supposed to be Chris Sweat in the Napa Auto Parts machine, but he will not be participating. Jake Finch out of Gadsden, Alabama in the number 8 Crew Chiefs Corner entry. And Christopher Huerta will be in number 88 in the outside of row 15. Row 16 we'll see Travis Ellington, who will be starting on the inside of row 15, starting 31st. And then Brian Fletcher out of Florida, Tampa area, in the Coca-Cola number 82. And then finishing the field out here tonight, the field of 33, Roger Espinoza in the Marines entry out of Miami, Florida, and that will be your 30. That was your 33 car field. There are going to be some slight alterations. Dylan Gooden is going to be making the show. He was originally slated to be in the number 75 Castle Motors entry, and DeMonte Dotson, Kyle Pogrefsky, Andrew Hayes, and Davis Warren were our 5 alternates for this Indianapolis 500K. Cars are on the grid, and this now, all the talk is over. It is time to get going.
That's right, Dave. And it's worth mentioning tonight that these are there are 17 rows here instead of the normal expected rows of 3. The iRacing setup for the Indy 500 still has them start in rows of 2. So it's a slight difference than what you normally see on TV for a broadcast in May.
Yeah, and that was done to eliminate any sort of issues on the start. Kind of one of those, let's just go ahead and do the smart thing and have these cars be straightened out by having them only 2 wide instead of 3 wide. Now, I have seen leagues do it, but it usually does not end well. And this is actually traditional for the CORT, for the championship online racing teams when we have an Indy 500 to have it with 2 rows or 2 to a row. So 2 rows or 2 to a row, 17 rows in the field, and this is going to be a good one here. And now, remember, they do not get multiple pace laps to get acclimated. They are going to be green this time by.
That's right, Dave. And worth mentioning here, 2 past winners in the field tonight. Mike Husby from Ontario and Alex Boffley from Wappinger Farms, New York. In the 08, Alex Boffley, they're in row number 2, I believe, or row number 1 outside on the outside pole. Those guys are definitely guys to beat. Alex Boffley, I believe, won a Indy 500K race, or Indy 500 race in iRacing this past week, so he definitely has been practicing.
Yeah, a lot of these guys have some time with that setup because it was used for that event. But now it is going to be a little bit more frantic for these drivers, as there is not going to be 500 miles. They only got 500 kilometers, 312 miles, 125 laps ahead of them as they make the run through 3 and 4. And we get ready to go with our Indianapolis 500K. It's been 4 years in the waiting. We've been waiting 4 years for this one. And the Indianapolis 500K, CORT's return to Indy cars, about to go green. The field is doubled up, and this will be the only time we see them doubled up. There will be single file restarts the rest of the way. Pace car, hard left-hand turn right about now. And the field, lined up in rows of 2, gets ready to go to the restart point, and we are underway from Indianapolis. It's the Indianapolis 500K. We're back.
Green flag is in the air. Mitchell Riggs takes a pretty long jump on the start and gets P1 going into turn 1 and the tunnel turn. Number 2, John Eckert and Alex Boffley, teammates, the number 90 and the number 08. Both of them definite favorites to win tonight. Like I said, Boffley here actually did win an iRacing Indy 500 this past week and has been putting in lots of practice laps. He definitely has the experience in order to win another one of these, Dave.
Pass for the second spot. Johnny Eckert, move him to the second spot, and now he's all over the rear wing of Mitchell Riggs as they come off the final 4th corner and come to the line to complete lap number 1. Eckert looks to have a little bit of a run, and Eckert does not quite lead that lap. I believe it was Riggs at the line. Caution! And it's Dylan Gooden hard into the wall, flipping, and we are under an early safety car here tonight. Dylan Gooden, one of the alternates coming into tonight. Let's see what happened here with Gooden.
Dave, it didn't really look well for Dylan Gooden's car. It looked like he kind of took a Kevin Kogan line and went into the wall.
Well, not quite. Yeah, it just all turned left there and caused an incident. So a real puzzling one. That's a shame for Dylan Gooden, and he's still sitting out here on the track. So we'll see the field now slow up, come to the caution car, and an early caution flag here. Mitchell Riggs is going to be our leader here, and looks like some sort of wheel issue possibly for Dylan Gooden. And that's a shame for Dylan Gooden because, you know, he was the 34th entry. He was the 34th qualifier, was the first alternate into tonight's event, and gets all of this going, gets the word he'll be in the show, he'll race, and then some sort of mechanical issue on lap 1, and that will put an end to his Indianapolis 500K.
Very sad night for the Springfield, Missouri driver. He was pretty excited to be able to bump into the field tonight. It looks like that was just some sort of hardware failure there, Dave. He just veered off to the left and almost entered the pit lane and flipped over there. It wasn't a really good sight.
No, and that's unfortunate for Dylan Gooden, and that will put an end to his Indianapolis 500K really before it began, and that will put him out of this event, and he'll have to try again next time. If there is a next time, he will have to give it another shot. So our top 10, we've seen some shuffling around in this top 10, specifically the top 3. We saw Johnny Eckert complete a pass to make it into this race or make it into the second spot, and this will be a single file restart. All the restarts, as agreed to by CORT and VARC administration, will be done single file, and that is done mainly to help try and make it a little bit easier, and it's also to mirror the real life NTT IndyCar series to have single file restarts here.
And Dave, it looks like as we take our first pace lap under caution, lots of drivers have decided to pit. At least
Taylor
9 to 10
Hayes,
drivers.
Nick Stoller, Tony Johns, Jake Finch, Robert Hill, Christopher Huerta, Travis Ellington, Roger Espinoza, who of course had that Cinderella qualifying run 1 week ago, and he is out into the pit lane. He was the 33rd qualifier, so some guys looking to play the fuel game here.
And it's a really important fuel number here tonight. Like I said, we were talking to the drivers before tonight's event. We're still looking at approximately 28 to 30 laps on a fuel run, depending on how you run it. Drivers are expecting to take tires every stop, as you can get tires in faster than you can get fuel into the car. So 4 stops tonight likely on fuel if you're really good. More likely to be 5 depending on how the cautions drop, if there are cautions for the rest of the evening.
Yeah, it's going to be really, really interesting to see how this fuel breakdown goes. And the other thing about that is this is a one-off. This is not a series. This is not a line, this is not part of a championship. This is not any sort of points. There is not a championship attached to this. This is a standalone event. So you're going to have to see if the championship mindset that you normally see possibly tomorrow when we see the CORT National Series go at it here on CORT Vision at Texas, you don't have that, okay, well, I'm going to try and get a good points day. This is the Indianapolis 500K. There's no sort of, we'll get them next week. There is no next week. This is it. So look for guys to be pretty aggressive with their pit strategy here tonight.
That's correct, Dave. Aggressive pit strategy is going to be very important in making sure you get a win tonight and get to drink the e-milk, as they say, for Indianapolis. Like we mentioned earlier in the broadcast, though, past winners in the field here are definitely the ones to look at, and definitely past winners in the CORT World Series events as well. Tyler Tucker is up there from Washington, D.C., number 55 Gallagher Insurance car. He's a very strong contender when it comes to these Indy cars. I've seen him race before. He's extremely fast. He's sitting there in the 4th position and had a really good start tonight. I think he's definitely one to watch.
Yeah, he is definitely going to be someone to watch. He is, of course, a defending CORT Trading Paints Championship Series champion from back in the day. I believe he won the 2013 A championship. Tucker did, and is one of the guys to watch for when we run these Indianapolis cars here, and he is running in the 4th spot. Had a good qualifying effort, too. Before that, so has not really moved all that much. Granted, we've only had 1 lap of green flag racing, but an early caution here. Possibly this could be good for the drivers, kind of reset their mindset, going, okay, we got a lap in, we're past this, we're official, we have started this thing, and these drivers are kind of getting in the mindset of, okay, not exactly happy with having an early caution, but I'm sure these drivers are probably enjoying the fact that they're getting a little moment to gather their bearings here.
Now, Dave, there was only about 2.5 miles of green flag action so far this evening, but there has been one big jump in the field tonight. Petersburg, Florida's Brian Fletcher started way back there in the 32nd position. He bumped himself up 9 spots to the 22nd position. I don't know how he made it that far that fast, but he got into the field very, very, just a very tight margin to get into the field last week. He was very excited, has been talking about it all week, the fact that he would make it into the field on speed when there was that many drivers attempting to qualify to the race. I think he's such a new driver. He doesn't have a lot of experience with these Indy cars, but he's definitely got the skill, and he's definitely got the heart to try and put himself in victory lane tonight.
I believe the way that he passed all those cars was because he is the last car who did not come in on this caution period. So that's how he made those moves. And an early strategy play a little bit, and now he moves out of the back end of the field and kind of moves himself solidly into the mid-pack. So smart move by Fletcher to get a little bit of track position here, as I believe the lights are now off the safety car. We will be going green this time by. Again, it is a single file restart for all of our restarts here in the Indianapolis 500K, and our top 10 will be Mitchell Riggs, Johnny Eckert, Alex Boffley, Tyler Tucker, Brett Black, Brandon Ward, Kieran Bergelli, Kyton Bummersbach, Kevin Bingle, and Aaron Bean. So we're looking at that a little bit further back, 11th through 20th. Stephen Moore, Andrew Hess, Ricky Butler, Johnny Parham, Patrick Britton, James Gutta, Mike Husby, Jeffrey Miller, Joseph Cervone, and John Long will round out our top 20 in the Indianapolis 500K. As we were mentioning just a moment ago, this is the first IndyCar race since the CORT Trading Paints Championship Series shut down at the end of 2015. There was one Indianapolis 500K in 2016, but like we mentioned, a 4-year hiatus for Indy cars in the championship online racing teams. And judging by the interest, it's been really, really fun to see just how much interest has been for this event.
That's right, Dave. A lot of interest in the event, and so much to show the talent of the field tonight. 2016 Indy 500K winner Steven Taylor actually did not qualify. Steven Taylor is a very fast driver. He's known for his wins in the National Cup Series in CORT. He was very sad to not make the field, very heartbroken over it, but it just goes to show you that the amount of skill in the field tonight is high.
All right, as we get going here, field going to come to the line. This will be a single file restart. They cannot pass to the inside. All passes have to be to the right before the start-finish line. Mitchell Riggs will lead him to the green, and he will get on the loud pedal, and we're back underway from Indianapolis. Trouble in the back of the field. Big accident in the back of the field. Cars plowing into it, and now we will go caution again.
Big accident in the field. At least 9 to 10 cars that look like were part of that.
Looks like some sort of issue with James Gutta in the 86. And let's see what happened here. And looks like it was just a checkup. And, it looked like Mike Husby and James Gutta made some contact. And has led to us being under the yellow once again.
A terrible start for James Gutta tonight. A beautiful-looking number 86 Valvoline car. You really hate to see it crunched up like that.
Now, the thing is that Gutta appears to not have much damage. He can replace the rear and the front wing of that entry, and that would mean that he could still be in this thing. But I can't say quite the same for the rest of the field in that incident. But right now, they will now cycle back to the pace car, and we will be again another caution period here to kick off. Not exactly a good omen for this Indianapolis 500K. 2 cautions before we even hit lap 10.
No, and it looks like a large list of drivers included in that incident. Jeffrey Miller, James Gutta, Mike Husby, Brian Schibler, Taylor Hayes also crashed. Tony Johns, fan favorite, was a part of that. Zane Jackson, as well as Jake Finch. Roger Espinoza, all caught up in that kerfluffle coming up to the green flag.
Yeah, but taking a look at Tony Johns' entry, Tony Johns doesn't appear to have any damage from it, so perhaps he just got slowed up into it. And looks like his car is relatively clean, so a little bit of a bullet dodge there for the Indiana native. So we are now under the caution once again, lap 8. And now these drivers are just hoping we can get into a groove a little bit here. And as we sit here, we'll see who comes down the pit lane for service. Looking like we will see Patrick Britton make the dive down into service. John Long will come down. Christopher Huerta. A couple other drivers. Julian Medores coming down the pit lane. So these drivers here going to be coming down to get some damage fixed, it appears.
It looks like Patrick Britton also took some damage to the rear wing as he was hit by the 86 of James Gutta there on the restart.
Yeah, so Britton will get the repairs done. Husby needs a rear wing, as that rear wing and front wing assembly on the 6 car appears to be pretty damaged. There's Husby in the 6, and yeah, you can see it right there. Front wing slightly bent, rear wing slightly bent, and the front wing's fixed. And you're not seeing the crew do this, but in iRacing, the crews will model the repairs that you normally get, and now he's got a full new front and rear wing. And that's one of the benefits of these Indy cars. Unlike a stock car of fully fendered entry, you don't have the worry of, oh, well, I crinkled it and they'll never get it right. Here, you can take the whole front clip off, or the front wing comes off as one solid piece, and then you could put it back onto the car, and it'll fit in there good as new.
That's right, Dave, and it looks like some of those drivers there unfortunately took the worst part of that. Taylor Hayes, hit the 86 James Gutta particularly hard as everyone come to a stop. Tony Johns, like you said earlier, only took a bit of a crinkle to his wings. Looks like, for the most part, not really a lot of damage other than to a couple of the cars, the 86 of James Gutta, the Taylor Hayes car.
Yeah, and Brian Schibler as well. So we'll see Gutta come down the pit lane this time, it appears. He's going to need to get those that damage repaired. Jake Finch will also come down the pit lane as we now work lap 10, and we have one lap of green flag racing to show for it. This is doing really wonders for these drivers in the front of the field, though. This is helping their fuel mileage tremendously.
Absolutely. It's one of those deals where a couple of caution flag events like this may be able to stretch your fuel mileage out by 7 to 10 laps. Open up that fuel number there for the first pit stop somewhere around lap 40 in this event.
Yeah, and we expect about 35 laps or so, I believe, is typically the number for a fuel run here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. So we'll see if that can be stretched out a little bit, like we said, and that could impact things with it being 125 laps, this Indianapolis 500K here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Really exciting week of court action here tonight, or this week, as we wrap up Court Vision, and we hope that you will stick around with us after tonight. Tomorrow, the Court National Series, the Texas 400 from Texas Motor Speedway, the Class B Court National Series will be in action 9 p.m. Eastern here on Court Vision. And then Friday, the season finale for the Subaru IRX All-Star Invitational, presented by Yokohama and powered by us, the Championship Online Racing Teams. That will be at 6 p.m. Eastern at iRacing.com/live. Mitchell DeYoung's got the championship locked up for that one, but still a lot to play for the rest of the way through that there in the IRX All-Star Invitational. So, looking like we might get the one to go here at the line. And, for cars that can go 220 mile per hour plus, I got to be honest, I'm not exactly impressed that the fact that we are sitting at only going about 75 mile an hour around this Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
That's right, Dave. And as the field goes by, it looks like the three cars of James Gutta in the 86, Taylor Hayes in the 22, and Brian Schibler in the 68 have remained stationary on pit lane. They're attempting to take all of the damage repair that they can get. Robert Hill Jr., however, exited and is now entering the pit lane again before the field come around, possibly to catch a little more damage repair, as well as Jeffrey Miller is in on pit lane.
A little bit of a tactical move there. They'll also be able to top up on fuel here in this final lap before the restart. So, again, as we mentioned, a little bit different now because we have had some cars that were in the top 20 affected by that incident. So Mitchell Riggs is our current leader. Johnny Eckert second. Alex Boffley third. Tyler Tucker fourth. Brett Black is fifth. Brandon Ward is sixth. Kieran Brugelli is seventh. Kyton Bumbersbach is eighth. Kevin Bingle is ninth. Aaron Bean rounds out our top 10.
That's right, in your 11th through 20th, real quick, Dave. Stephen Moore, Andrew Hess, Ricky Butler, Johnny Parham, Joe Cervone, your 10 through 15 or 11 through 15, Brian Fletcher, Nick Stoller, Travis Ellington, Roger Espinoza, Zane Jackson rounding out your top 20.
Yeah, and then we're seeing some of these guys here who have had to pit for damage or whatnot. John Long, Christopher Huerta, Julian Medor, Tony Johns, Patrick Britton, Mike Husby, Jake Finch, Robert Hill Jr., and Jeffrey Miller, the last of the 29 cars still out on the racetrack. James Gutta and Taylor Hayes and Brian Scheibler getting some damage fixed here early on in the going in tonight's Court Indianapolis 500K, the 11th renewal of this prestigious event. So, pace car are going to make a hard left-hand turn, and hopefully we can get some green flag racing here. These drivers probably wishing that we can get some green flag racing, as here comes Mitchell Riggs, and he will dictate this start as we wait for the start. And now we're back under the green flag, and we are back underway from Indianapolis. Riggs will pull away, and Eckert and Boffley in tow.
A decent start from Mitchell Riggs there. He gets a bit of a gap on Boffley and Eckert. However, they immediately suck up behind him, and they go 1, 2, 3 onto the backstretch.
Yeah, and they are all in a blanket. Now here comes Johnny Eckert with some help by the 08 of Alex Boffley, and don't count out Tyler Tucker and Brett Black running fourth and fifth. as they head through turn 3 for the first time at speed for quite a while. They head through 4, and it appears as if Riggs will bring him back to the lead, or back to the line in the lead. And now here comes Alex Boffoli with a big dive to the inside. He wants the second position on Johnny Eckert. Not quite able to do so. They fall back in line.
Positions 5, 6, and 7, Brandon Ward, Brett Black, and Kieran Bergelli, all under a blanket as well. They're all sucked up right behind Tyler Tucker's number 55 Gallagher Insurance Machine.
Kyton Bummersbach and Kieran Bergelli battling there for a little bit there. They were battling for the 7th position. They now get it strung out, and the last thing you want to do is be in the gray here at Indianapolis. Get in line. Drivers looking to just be single file, maybe log some laps. But these straightaways are so interesting to see. They are so able to carry a run down to the turn, but not quite able to complete the pass, as Johnny Eckert still was able to get side by side with Mitchell Riggs, but has to back out of it before he can really mount a charge.
That's right, and I think after the 2 cautions here, drivers may be just attempting to just ride along. John Eckert, though, goes the outside.
Certainly doesn't feel like it
for the lead. The rest of the field, however, just might be riding. They fight the lead going into turn 3, and John Eckert can't continue to take P1.
Eckert really running high in the outside of the racing groove in turns 3 there. Was lucky to make it back into the racing groove and cape it off the wall there. And we have that old saying, the last thing you want to do is eat Indiana concrete, and that is what these drivers are trying to not do right now. Early on in this one, only 15 laps into the 125-lap Indianapolis 500K.
Meanwhile, a little bit behind the leaders, Brandon Ward in the 57 looked high on Tyler Tucker and couldn't make the move. Brett Black now looking low under Brandon Ward to take the number 5 position.
Yeah, and there goes Kieran Bergelli again, making another pass. So Kieran Bergelli is making some moves. He was about 8th or 9th on that restart and is now sitting in the 5th spot.
Kieran Bergelli from California, not a normal CORT driver. Actually, this is a one-off for him. I've known him, Dave, for some years. We ran a CORT league some years ago in R Factor. He actually decided to come out and is really loves his IndyCar racing and is up for a challenge whenever it comes along.
And challenge accepted. He has moved up to the 4th spot, and now here goes Alex Boffoli. They're going to charge for the lead. He's going to have the inside groove, and now move Alex Boffoli, the 08, to the lead. Lead change here on lap 16. Alex Boffoli goes to the top spot. Now it's going to be interesting to see how this shakes out, because tire wear is going to start playing a factor here, as here goes Mitchell Riggs. Now Mitchell Riggs on the inside, and he will complete the pass.
Positions 2, 3, and 4 almost going 3 wide into turn 1 there for a moment, and these guys are looking extremely racy. Like we said in the pre-race a little bit, that race pace is looking to fall off about 10 to 15 laps into a lead here. And once they start losing that fuel and that car gets a little more loose and those tires are a little more worn, these cars will begin to slow down, Dave.
And the crazy thing is these guys are racing like it's to lap 25 and not lap 125, as Bergelli tries to make the move on Eckert for the 2nd position. And we'll have a little bit of a slipstream on the back end of Mitchell Riggs. They go to turn number 1, and it's academic. Bergelli will now move to the 2nd position. What a charge by Bergelli here early.
Showing definitely that he was up for the challenge for a CORT Indy 500K. All of the top 10 within 1 second or so of the lead currently.
Yeah, 1.3 seconds to Johnny Parham in the 10th spot. And don't blink, you might miss a pass. This is the way that racing is here at Indianapolis with these Indy cars. As now Riggs will hang on through turns 3 and 4, and now we'll head back to the line here. And coming out of turn 4 to complete lap number 18, he will remain in the lead. But you can see them start to snake down the front straightaway. You'll see that. And now here goes Bergelli to the outside. He will have the unpreferred groove going into 1. Can he get it done? Yes, he does. What a pass by Kieran Bergelli. And move him to the top, and the caution is out. Travis Ellington appears to be the cause of the caution here, and we will see what happened to the 59 machine.
That machine looks really eaten up, Dave, and it seems like just Indianapolis got him.
He was battling for the 16th position or so with Joseph Cervone and Brian Fletcher, and looks like he got the apron, or he got the rumble strip, and that was fortunate to only be a single car incident, but unfortunately that will basically put a damper and basically an end on Travis Ellington's hopes of winning this Indianapolis 500K. But I got to give a shout out, Kieran Brigelli, what a charge. He restarted about 7th like we mentioned, and just muscled his way to the front.
Got to give Travis Ellington a lot of credit there, though. He got up into the wall. He was able to keep the car out of traffic. A lot of cars went by him and were able to get by clean. He got back down onto the apron. He got down to the pit lane. He's in the pits right now, and that car is heavily damaged.
Yeah, I think we've seen the last of Travis Ellington here tonight, so that's unfortunate for Ellington. Was lucky to make the show. Was very happy to make the show, and will unfortunately be ending this one somewhere in the deep 20s. Here tonight at Indianapolis. Lap 20 of 125 here at the Indianapolis 500K. Kieran Brigelli, our leader as it stands. And as mentioned just a moment ago, what a charge through that top 5. Made it look like mincemeat, really, with the way that he moved through that top 10.
He definitely took apart the field as he went. And it looks like right now, Dave, the top 16 have not pit. Once you get back 16, 17th on back, those drivers have pit for tires and fuel for one reason or another. Whether they have damage or not is a different story. However, that, and it looks like the entire lead field is going to be coming in now.
Yep,
to
here
take
they
tires and fuel.
all come. Please note the pit road entry is a little bit further down the pit lane than it typically is when the NASCAR stock cars are here. It's a little bit of a slow down lane a little bit for these drivers to make it down the pit lane and make it a little bit easier for them to slow up under green flag conditions. However, we haven't had much of that here at Indianapolis as the field comes down to the pit lane, and we'll see these pit stops. These pit stops are not going to be very long, about 8 seconds or so. We'll see where they shake out, and it appears as if Brian Fletcher missed his pit stall, and Kieran Brigelli will be the first one out of those who pitted, followed by Alex Boffley and Mitchell Riggs. And that is going to be the way that it shakes out here on pit lane.
And Dave, a little strategy happening at the front of the field right now. Stephen Moore in the 69, Patrick Britton in the 66, and Jeffrey Miller, who was in the incident earlier with the James Gutta car, the number 86 Valvoline car, all stayed out. Jeffrey Miller is on the lead lap. I do believe he had damage repaired. However, Stephen Moore and Patrick Britton have not pit yet, I don't believe.
Patrick Britton has, Stephen Moore has not. So
Stephen Moore. So his pit window is currently probably around lap number 42 or 45.
Yeah, it's going to be roughly around there with the way that the cautions have shaken out here in the early going of this Indianapolis 500K. As we sit here, this is our third caution of the evening so far. And our fastest lap as it stands, Christopher Huerta, actually, who is running in the 21st position as it stands. Christopher Huerta with a 40.422 is the driver with the fastest lap. We've seen 3 lead changes as it goes right now. And again, folks, that's only at the start-finish line. We've seen a lot of action for the top spot here early on in this one.
Dave, as they start lap number 22 here under caution, what do you think of the green flag action we've seen so far tonight?
I think it's been crazy, frantic. It's like these guys aren't really quite thinking that it's a long race. It's almost like they're treating it like a 125-lap sprint race with the way that these drivers are handling these green flag runs early. But I think that's just due to the nature of the fact that these drivers feel like they can make passes. This is a setup that seems to really invite the ability to make passes and get runs and contend for positions, and you never feel quite out of it. I think what will help, though, is if we can get a little bit of a 10-lap green flag run, get the field strung out a little bit. I think that will do wonders to help out, get us a little bit more green flag racing. But right now, though, even with single-file restarts, just by the nature of the package with these Indy cars and the low downforce, heavy low drag package, you're going to see a lot of runs to try and make moves. That is going to be something that we're going to have to see all the way through this field. And as we ride under the caution flag once again, and why don't we ride on board with Patrick Britton, or actually with Stephen Moore, who is our leader And you're noticing something that we haven't seen in the real world yet, actually, in racing competition, but we haven't seen it in the championship online racing team. So at this IR18, not just the fact that this is the IR18 being used, this is a CORT first. Also, the Aero screen, the Red Bull Technologies Aero screen. I tell you what, there was some controversy about this when it was introduced or back at the Indianapolis 500 last May, about the way that it looks and the way that it hampers, the vision of the drivers and everything. But I tell you what, I'm a big fan of these things.
Absolutely, and it's something that's been needed to happen for a very long time in IndyCar competition. I think these drivers definitely deserve the head and neck protection that they get from this windscreen here, and it's something that you've seen before in past years on champ cars and in the 80s, and especially if you look back in the archives and see pictures of like Johnny Rutherford's car with a large fiberglass or plexiglass windscreen. I think that it's just something that's well overdue, and it's really good for Red Bull Technologies to get in there and make a design that really fits in with the design of the IR18 chassis.
Yeah, and I tell you what, also with that is, it's also, as someone who turned some laps with this car during the week, I tell you, this is it's honestly not that distracting. I think the old cockpit protection device that they had, that we've kind of labeled the Sirius XM antenna because it looked like something that came off of the back end of a Chevy Cobalt or a Chevy Cruze, where you get the Sirius XM on it, that was mounted on the nose cone. I feel like this is a much better solution, just from the fact that it's not quite as distracting and it's easier to see around. So, big fan of this. Hopefully, once we actually do get racing back, I believe these IndyCars, the NTT IndyCar Series, will kick off their season in Texas in June in a few weeks. So, if that goes off, hopefully these things look every bit as good as they do here on iRacing. All right, top 10. As it stands, coming to the restart, lights are off on the iRacing safety car. Stephen Moore, Patrick Britton, Jeffrey Miller, Kieran Bergelli, first one of those who pitted. Mitchell Riggs, Alex Boffley, Kyton Bumbersbach, Johnny Eckert, Tyler Tucker, and Brandon Ward are top 10 as we get ready for the restart here on lap 24. 101 laps to go.
Stephen Moore hanging back off the pace car as it begins to dive towards pit lane. He will control the restart, single file for this entire field. 32 cars, 1 retired, 3 in the pits, so 29 lining up for this restart on lap number 24.
Bringing them in slowly, green flag in the air, and we're back underway from Indianapolis. Moore pulls away to a significant distance, a really good restart from Moore, and he will pull away going into 1.
It looks like the field cleanly gets through turn 1. No issues for anybody.
Yep, Britton and Miller running second and third, and the battle is going to be for the 4th spot as those drivers just coming off the pit lane. That will be Kieran Bergelli trying to hold off a charge from Mitchell Riggs and Alex Boffley there as they start to, and you see it right there, what we were mentioning just under the caution flag just a moment ago. You see the draft that the drivers behind can get off the car in front, and it's leading to some real slingshot-type passes here tonight.
For sure, and the speed here is just insurmountable, Dave. You don't understand until you actually see it in person. I saw it in person last year for the first time going to the Indy 500, and those cars entering turn 1 at over 200 miles an hour, it makes you wonder how they hold on tight.
I tell you, Kieran Bergelli is not exactly waiting his turn. He's making some moves here. He's moved up to 3rd and now is going to try and contend with these top 2, battling for the lead as Stephen Moore will now make the pass on Patrick Britton. So move Moore back to the lead and Britton back to 2nd as we ride here with these top 3, and we'll see what Bergelli can do coming down the front straightaway. We ride on board with Bergelli, and you see the suck-up that these drivers get off the car in front, and not going to be able to do anything with these top 2 running side by side. But he will be able to get 2nd. There he goes by Stephen Moore, so move Bergelli to the 2nd position.
Stephen Moore again still on tires from the beginning of the race. He hasn't pit yet. Now he's sitting in 3rd position. He's probably got a little bit of tire wear. The car is a little bit lighter, and that may help him speed-wise, but those tires are definitely more wore out.
And there goes Kieran Bergelli. The 27 back to the top spot on the racetrack, top spot on the podium, on the scoring tower here in Indianapolis, and he is going to take the lead, but he's facing a little bit of a charge. Here comes Patrick Britton to the outside as they go side by side going into one. It will be Brighelli with the preferred groove and move Brighelli back to the lead.
Further back in the field, it looks like John Eckert has made a couple of passes and made his way back up to the 6th position. Just put one on Jeffrey Miller, who is fallen back from that front spot.
Oh, big block by big block at the front of the field. Looked like Britton was trying to move to the inside. Brighelli throws a big block, and now Brighelli will hang on to the lead, but a big block down the back straightaway there just a moment ago. Not something to be watched for. Court administration, not sure if they addressed the blocking rule, but traditionally in the Train Paints Championship Series, big blocks being thrown by Karen Brighelli going into turn number 1. Big blocks. We'll have to see if this continues, but not exactly treating this with the not really exactly giving a lot of room to Patrick Britton behind him in the 66. Here goes Britton to the outside. He's going to try and make a move going into 3. Not going to be able to do so. They run side by side through turn number 3. Britton hanging on for dear life. The tires not quite the grip that Brighelli has. Brighelli's going to hang on to the top spot.
Patrick Britton last pitting on lap 8. He's got 12 laps older tires than Brighelli does, so yes, that's correct, Dave. He probably doesn't have the grip, but he goes outside again, attempts, but Brighelli fades outside and keeps the position going into turn 1 on lap 29.
That is some real dangerous driving by Brighelli there to chop off Britton like that, and that has opened the door for Mitchell Riggs on this restart to now move up to the 3rd spot.
Mitchell Riggs on the last lap actually made it around Stephen Moore real cleanly. At the same time, Brighelli and Britton were fighting for the lead. And, again, going into 3, Brighelli checks up on Britton.
Now, the rule back in the times that Court had a series, the championship online racing teams, when they did have an IndyCar series, was you had one move. You had one block attempt down a straightaway. We're seeing multiple attempts at a block, so we'll see if the court administration will chime in here. But right now, as it stands, Brighelli will hang on to the lead aggressively, hanging on to this lead early.
And Mitchell Riggs comes up through the field, gets a good pass on Patrick Britton. Kite Bommersbach from Texas follows through and is attempting to go down the backstretch and get that P3 spot from Patrick Britton.
Yeah, and that's the defending Fuel IndyCar Series champion, as he will now move to the 3rd position. So Bommersbach moves to 3rd, and now a really solid run by the Texan, who is trying to win his first Indianapolis 500K. It will be a Texas-sized effort if he can do so, but he's trying to do so as the battle's going to be again for the lead, as now these two drivers, Brighelli and Riggs, both came in under that last caution, are battling for the top spot. Battle for 3rd now as Britton tries to mount a charge on Bommersbach, but will fall in line.
Brighelli is coming on the front straight here. It looks like not so much as a chop block as he's just moving lanes to try and break that draft on the 09 of Mitchell Riggs. Riggs goes outside going into turn 3, the non-preferred lane. They're very close. They're side by side going into the chute. Ooh. Mitchell Riggs is right behind, but he's not giving up going into turn 4.
Caution! Caution is out on the Speedway. And it's going to be Ricky Butler in the 10. Let's see what happened here as we're under the caution again on lap 31. And we'll see here, it was going into turn number 3. Ricky Butler was battling with Jeffrey Miller and such, so this was about the 15th, 16th, 17th position. We'll see what happened here to Butler. And looks as if he just got into Julian Medora. Oh, and someone hard into his side there.
98 of Nick
Stoller. Yeah, so looking like that has taken out a couple drivers' chances of winning the Indianapolis 500K.
And unfortunately, Dave, it looks like that may very well have been a situation between Butler and the 78 of Julian Medora of Netcode.
Yeah, that might have been a roll friend Netcode rearing its ugly head here early on in this one. So again, a very atrocious beginning of this Indianapolis 500K here tonight. And a lot of drivers really driving aggressively here early.
That's right, Dave, and probably the biggest loser out of all that, despite Ricky Butler looking like that's going to be a DNF situation for him as he had issues getting going, was Nick Stoller in the number 98 William Rass car. He had absolutely nowhere to go and glanced off directly into the wall, probably about 220 miles an hour.
Yeah, that's unfortunate for him as the leaders will all come in. So here they all come in down the pit lane as the whole field looks like, oh, maybe one did not come in, didn't quite catch a number on that as to who is not coming in.
Aaron Bean in the number 20.
Yeah, that will be Aaron Bean in the 20 who will stay out, but here we go. We'll see what the pit lane produces for us here as we see them all come in for tires. They were last in not that long ago, so kind of surprising to see another pit stop here on lap 33.
Aaron Bean will get the lap lead there for lap number 32. He last pit on lap 20, that last caution prior to this one.
Really good race off of pit road, and I think Mitchell Riggs might have gotten by Kieran Bergelli. Yes, he does. So looks as if Mitchell Riggs will take back the second position, the first of these drivers who did come in. So big move by Mitchell Riggs there on the pit lane. His pit stop was a 7.8 to Kieran Bergelli's 8.0 flat. Oh, no, I believe he's actually just about to redress it. Oh, no, he's caught up to the back of the pacing field. That's what that was right there. So,
Dave, it looks like currently we have two DNFs. Travis Ellington and Dylan Good in the number 75 have parked it for the night, unfortunately. We may have more here due to the issues that caused this caution on lap number 32.
Yeah, I believe Tony Johns might have been involved in that, unfortunately, here early on in this one, as Tony Johns appeared to be involved with that. Tony Johns, Nick Steller, Julian Medora, and Christopher Huerta, according to CORT World Series out on Twitter. Want to give a quick shout out to them. They've been on a great job the last 2 weeks, providing updates on this Indianapolis 500K, and are doing so tonight with the live tweeting of this one and giving us updates that we might not quite catch here in the booth. So again, we ride here. We are just past the 30 lap mark, so we got about 93, 92 laps to go here. Aaron Bean, the Bean Machine out of Tampa, Florida, now leading this one. He will lead his second lap of the race so far here. He is going to be on about 13 lap old tires when this gets back going here. 13, 14 lap old tires here.
And it looks like we have some drivers ducking into the pit lane here under caution again. Tyler Tucker enters pit lane, I guess, to top off again. Robert Hill Jr. has entered the pit lane, and Christopher Huerta, I would assume, entering pit lane to take repairs from being involved in that wreck that caused this caution.
Yeah, Tyler Tucker came in as well, and yeah, unfortunately, a lot of drivers who are getting repairs done here early at Indianapolis, which is a shame because, you know, it's such a difficult race. It was such a difficult race to make here, you know, or you know, we had 56 entries for 33 spots. There were 62 entries actually, but 56 attempted qualifying, and it's kind of sad to see that we've had so much attrition here early. So we'll have to see if this will clean itself up. I mean, by nature, less cars out on track, which mean that it will clean itself up as we go. But a lot of really good drivers taken out here early.
Unfortunately, you know, you hate to see, I do love seeing long green flag runs, and especially green flag pit stops with these Indy cars for the very small pit delta time that it takes for them to get down pit lane, get a full stop in with fuel and tires, and back out on the road. It really shakes the field up. It really shows drivers that separate themselves with the skill of being able to handle coming back out into Indianapolis traffic with cold tires and a full tank of fuel, Dave. A little bit of a recap here. This is caution number 3, I believe.
Actually, this is caution number 4.
Caution number 4 of the night.
Indianapolis 500K. We're not even at the 40-mile mark, or 40-lap mark. And we are under the caution again. Christopher Huerta continues to have our fastest lap of the race with a 40.422. And our lead changes, we've had 5 of them at the start-finish line as it stands, as I believe the lights will now come off our iRacing pace car. And yes, we will go back green here. And Aaron Bean appears to be backing up the field significantly for this restart. We could see a little bit of a more traditional IndyCar restart where the field will be backed up a little bit. And then we'll get going in 3 and 4 to kind of string them out a little bit.
That's right, Dave. And as they enter down there, the going into 2 and then the back stretch, we've seen a lot of aggressive driving early on tonight. A lot of guys out there going for the lead early on as if it was the last 10 laps or so of the race.
Yeah, and you can see here on your screen, as you can see, that white speck down in the distance, that's the pace car. And Aaron Bean giving a lot more room to the pace car than anyone has so far tonight. So we'll see what this will shake out here on this restart. But this is more akin to an actual IndyCar restart, so we'll see if this will improve things here, and we can hopefully get some green flag running in our Indianapolis 500K. Top 10, Aaron Bean, Mitchell Riggs, Kieran Brighelli, Kyton Bumbersbach, Stephen Moore, Patrick Britton, Johnny Eckert, Alex Boffley, Andrew Hess, and Brett Black round out our top 10 as it stands.
Aaron Bean doing a great job of stabilizing the field, doing about 70 miles an hour going into turn 3 into the second chute. He's definitely backing this thing down a bit and letting that pace car get way ahead, and he's going to have full control over this field as we come back to green to start lap 36.
Yeah, so this is somewhat of an administrative move too, because Aaron Bean, one of the administrators for this event, and that is exactly what he has done. He is getting on he's getting on the go pedal now. And we are going back under green here at Indianapolis. Bean out to a giant lead as the green flag is out. We're back racing at the World Center of Racing.
Bean entering turn 1 at 210 miles an hour. It just goes to show you how quickly these cars can get back up to pace, especially with old tires, as Aaron Bean does have.
And you're seeing, you could tell right on the left side of your screen on our court box, you could see that it has increased the distance in between these drivers. So did its job, strung out the field, but the battle's going to be for the second position right now as Riggs tries to hold off Brighelli going into turn number 4 now. Riggs hanging on to that spot, but Brighelli should have a run coming off of 4.
That's right. Brighelli extremely racy early on in this race. He's made a lot of very close passes to start off the night here as we start lap number 37. He's got a big suck on the 09 of Mitchell Riggs, and Riggs has caught back up with the 2-0 car of Aaron Bean.
Yep, so top 3 under a blanket as it stands is now Riggs, who is on fresh tires, Aaron Bean 16-lap old tires, and now here goes Brighelli to the inside, 3 wide for a minute, thought better of it, and fell into line. So now move Riggs to the lead, and Bean will now move to second, and it looked like Brighelli might have gotten a little bit of grass there in turn 3 that time. So very aggressive moves by this top 5 as it stands, and we see it going now as Bean tries to hold off Brighelli, and they are looking at 3 wide going into 1. Doesn't quite work. Some real aggressive moves. We are not even halfway into this race.
Mitchell Riggs backed off there going into turn 1. Definitely got off the pace very quickly and was enveloped by cars behind him that 3 through 10th pack running nose to tail right now down the backstretch.
Yeah, and now Brighelli broken away from the back of by the drivers behind. Has now got Aaron Bean all to himself. He comes down turn number 4. Bean will try and hold off Brighelli, but this might just be academic. Here goes Brighelli to the inside, and with a giant run, move the 27 back to the lead. Brighelli back to P1 on lap 39. And we'll see what kind of moves Brighelli does to try and hang on to this lead. He's been aggressive early, and we'll see it again here if he can make these moves again. And now a big move on Kyton Bumbersbach there. Bumbersbach trying to make the move on Bean for the second position, and he will do so. So move Kyton Bumbersbach to the second position.
Bumbersbach had an incredible suck on the backstretch to get by Bean there. Bean still on older tires. He pit last on lap 20. His tires are about 12 laps older than everybody else in the front of the field.
And there he goes. He's now dooring the 27 of Brighelli. Brighelli to the inside. Bumbersbach to the outside. And Bumbersbach gets the job done on the outside. So we're seeing passes on the outside. It's absolutely doable on the outside here at Indianapolis. And here goes Brighelli again. It's going to be like this. It's reminding me a little bit, Chris, of those old kart races where they had the Hansford device where, it was actually quicker to slingshot past the car in front. It was quicker overall.
Now, Dave, I'm not sure. That close pass there between Bumbersbach and Brighelli. Brighelli, we don't see a lot of his racing. He's never raced a court race here before. We do know, though, that Bumbersbach, as you mentioned earlier, the defending fuel IndyCar Series champion. He has consistent action in these cars. He definitely knows how they handle. He definitely knows where to put this car. So to see him get that close doesn't really make me feel as nervous as some of these drivers here in the field who haven't been behind in the IndyCar as much.
Yeah, so Bumbersbach running way high in turn 3 that time, and these cars so aero sensitive. And it's being brought up in the chat. By the way, we are in the Twitch chat, twitch.tv/CORTVision. Of course, that's how you're watching this event. But a lot of drivers mentioning a lot more drag in these cars with Patrick Britton now making a power move. He moves to the 3rd position past Aaron Bean. So Patrick Britton, who did come in on that previous pit stop, is now currently sitting in the 3rd spot. So a lot of comers and goers here early on in this Indianapolis 500K. As now Britton will make a move to the 2nd spot. He's going to have the preferred groove going into 3, and he will get it done. Move Patrick Britton. No, not quite. Not quite. Here goes Kighton with a solid run on the top. It's Texas versus California, and the Lone Star State will win for now.
That Haribo Volvo IndyCar. Now that's something I didn't think I'd be saying tonight. Haribo and Volvo IndyCar of Kite Bumbersbach, and he is a defending champion in fuel with a Volvo. I just want to reiterate that, Dave.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, you are a big fan of the Volvos, so you got to be pretty happy about that. As Brigelli tries to break the draft down this back straightaway, and Britton also trying to get the draft off of Bumbersbach. So now the battle will be again for the lead, and now Bumbersbach regroups a little bit, gets a little bit of heat out of those tires, and is now going to mount a charge for the lead on Brigelli. We'll see here, and now here goes Brigelli. Facing a charge from Bumbersbach. There goes Bumbersbach on the outside. He's been able to get it done up there. Can he get it done again? We'll see off of turn number 1. Not quite able to do so. Brigelli's going to have the groove. Going through turn number 2. Not going to be able to do so, as it appears as if Brigelli is going to hang on to the top spot as it stands. This racing up at the front of the field is crazy.
And let's not leave Aaron Bean out of that pack. He is staying tight right with that top 3 in P4. He's got older tires. He has less fuel. It may seem like he would be slower, but he's definitely just hanging back there. It seems like he's just there to run, there to ride along, and see maybe if there's some issues in front, he can reclaim that P1 position.
Yeah, as they now head in turn number 1 once again, and now Brigelli facing a charge from Patrick Britton, and it's like if Britton and Bumbersbach are just going, you try, no you try, no you try, but Brigelli with a solid run at the front and has done his job. He has gotten P1 and he has stayed there for the most part. He's been the most consistent leader as it stands so far tonight.
That's right, Dave, and the race control radio is going off right now. Couldn't make out the message there, but it had something to do with the pack.
All right, so we'll have to see what that will entail. So these cars all somewhat together. So now here goes Britton to the inside. Britton, preferred groove going into 1. He will take the lead as it stands. No, Brigelli again, a solid, amazing job to hang on to that lead despite not having the preferred groove down into turn number 1. Is not able to relinquish the lead to Patrick Britton.
Britton and Brigelli both CORT new drivers. Britton has some time put in the Supercar Series this season so far. Brigelli, this is his first start in CORT competition.
Got one of these wild card entries. A couple other ones. Stephen Moore in the 69 is another car making his CORT debut as they complete lap number 46 and head to 47. Our top 10 as it stands: Brigelli, Britton, Bumbersbach, Eckert, Riggs, Ward, Bean, Black, Bingle, and Moore. 6 B names in the top 10 as it stands.
It looks like Dave, Aaron Bean in the number 20 Home Depot car is starting to fade back on those older tires. He's lost some positions and now back in the P7 spot from P4 where he was about 3 laps ago.
Yeah, that is where he's fallen. He is about 12 lap older tires than these front 5, so being just a matter of average. I mean, tires wear, that's what they do, and they end up losing pace, and that's what's happening right now. Brigelli, though, is really doing an amazing job keeping that lead, is able to cut the air the right way, cut the angles, and this IndyCar racing is it's so much more difficult than any sort of stock car or closed cockpit, closed wheel racing. the aerodynamics are so vital to how to drive this car.
Dave, I'd like to agree with you there. I actually haven't driven an IndyCar in quite a long time, so I'll have to take your word for it.
They're very difficult once you get the air involved in this. They're easy to drive on their own, but when you start putting them in a pack, it can be really difficult to understand what exactly the air is doing. As there goes Britton, solid run down the front straightaway, and he will not quite be able to get the job done. It appears as if drivers are able to get the pass done in turn 1, but by the time they get to turn 2 on the exit, Brighelli's got enough momentum built up that he can keep the lead.
Dave, we watched this California battle for P1 ring out. The field comes back around, and we'll start lap number 50. A quick run through of your top 10 tonight in the CORT Indianapolis 500K. Kieran Brighelli and Patrick Britton fighting for the P1 position. Kite Bomersbach, Johnny Eckert, Mitchell Riggs, your top 5. Brandon Ward, Aaron Bean, Brett Black, Kevin Bingle, last night's winner in the Supercar Series from Summit Point, and Stephen Moore, first-time CORT starter, rounds out your top 10.
Yeah, and then behind them, Alex Boffoli, who was our outside pole sitter, sitting 11th. Andrew Hess, 12th. Johnny Parham, 3rd. Joseph Serfone in 14th. 15th, Julian Medord. Mike Husby, 16th. Jeffrey Miller, 17th. Robert Hill, 18th. Jake Finch, 19th. And John Long in the 20th spot.
As you get through the top 20 there, we have another pass for the lead. Patrick Britton gets around Kieran Brighelli again, but they're still too wide going into turn 4 and exiting now onto the front stretch.
Oh, and we'll see if he can hang on to it. Here goes Brighelli to the outside. He's going to use the side draft. And now here goes, we'll have to see if Britton can hang on to it as they head through turn number 1. It's going to be real tight, but I think, again, Kieran Brighelli is going to hang on to this top spot.
You have to give credit to Kite Bomersbach and John Eckert in the
Caution.
P3 and P4. Oh.
Caution is out. It's Jake Finch, and he's flipping violently. And we'll see what happened here to Jake Finch. Was running around Robert Hill Jr. in the 84 machine. That was for roughly about the 19th spot, 19th and 20th. And we'll see what happened here going into turn number 1. And oh, it was a big stack up. And then he got a little bit of contact in the back. And before he knew it, he's flipping violently through the turn 1 and 2 section of the racetrack. Didn't quite see who got into the back of him.
Dave, it looks like he may have just stepped out of the line and got into the wall alone.
Yeah, there was a car directly behind him going into 1. Didn't quite catch the number on him there, but might have taken the air off of the rear wing of the 8 machine of Finch, and the longtime CORT competitor appears to be done here at Indianapolis as it stands. So on lap 52, we're 10 laps from halfway here in the Indianapolis 500K. Kieran Brighelli is our current leader.
Terrible luck for the driver from Black Creek, Alabama tonight, that crew chief corner number 8 machine of Jake Finch. Looked like Robert Hill Jr. in the 84 was right behind him, and I think you may be right, David. It looks like he was close enough that the air may have just been taken right off the back of that rear wing, and he got up and out of the lane and ended up in the wall.
Yeah, that appears to be the case, and like we were mentioning just a moment ago, the last thing you want to do is get out of the groove here at Indianapolis. It can be a bad day for you if you get out of it and get too high up out of the groove. You could be hitting the wall pretty quickly. We were about 20 laps on that run, believe it or not, and that will lead us to a set of pit stops, and it looks as if this pit strategy that we were talking about, fuel mileage and everything, isn't quite coming into play with these early cautions. That one, I believe, our 6th of the night so far. And that will lead us to another set of caution flag pit stops here as the cars come down the pit lane.
That's correct, Dave. And right now, as the field crosses a line under caution, and we have Stephen Moore stayed out again to start lap number 53. Only 72 laps remain in this event. Now, unfortunately, that's right outside of a one more pit stop unless there's a caution there. So fuel mileage is starting to show itself here this evening.
And again, Kieran Brighelli, this might come into play late, gets beat on the pit lane. He will get beat out by the number 37 of Kyton Bumbersbach. So move Bumbersbach to second and the first car among those who pitted on this run here. And now it'll be Bumbersbach, Brighelli, Britton, Eckert, Riggs, Ward, and actually it'll be black over Ward as they exchange spots, and Aaron Bean and Kevin Binkle rounding up the top 10 behind our new leader, Stephen Moore. And Stephen Moore making his court debut. Again, another wild card entry here in this Indianapolis 500K, and seems to be holding his own pretty well with these drivers here. So we sit here under the safety car. Still got a significant distance to go. Still got over or just under 10 laps from halfway here at the Indianapolis 500K as we sit here with you know, has slightly heavy hearts as this will be the last week of Court Vision here, but you know, some real good events to go out on. We had that amazing Drive for Supercars Championship race here last night on Court Vision with Kevin Bingle just beating Callum Watson to the line last night. That was an amazing finish, and if you haven't checked it out, check out the archive here on Twitch if you are so inclined. A real fun finish to that one. And of course we've got our Indianapolis 500K here tonight, and then next week or tomorrow we have the Court National Series at Texas Motor Speedway, the first appearance for the championship online racing teams at the newly reconfigured, for us at least, Texas Motor Speedway. That will be right here on Court Vision tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Eastern, and the Subaru IRX All-Star Invitational, our last Court Vision broadcast, not actually on Court Vision. That'll be over on iRacing.com/live as at Hell Lagerbogen, 6 p.m. Eastern here on Court Vision. That will be our final Subaru IRX All-Star Invitational event presented by Yokohama going on this Friday.
Dave, we got about a lap and a half here left before restart for the Court Indianapolis 500K, lap 54 of 125 right now. What do you say we go to the pits for a quick interview?
Yeah, let's go ahead and see who we can get.
I think we might have here, it looks like we've got the driver from Carbondale, Illinois, Mitchell Riggs. Mitchell Riggs, do you got a copy?
Yeah, I got you, bud.
How you doing tonight, Mitchell?
I'm doing all right. I'm just riding here watching this racing, I guess, in front of me.
Mitchell, you're sitting in 6th right now. You just got a pretty decent pit stop, but lost a couple of positions, it looks like. What's the race strategy for you looking like right now?
We probably have 2 more pit stops to go if this thing goes green, so just making it to those and playing our cards right until it gets serious, and then we can work our way forward.
Right on. And how do you feel about the raciness of the field up front tonight? You've been up front pretty much the entire evening. There's been a lot of moving for position with this updated setup tonight. How do you feel about that?
Well, to be honest with you, I'm not a big fan. I think there's been a lot of aggressive moves, and I think it's going to get one of us wrecked, and it's just going to be not a good move. So I'm kind of just watching these guys and letting them do what they need to do and wipe themselves out, and then we'll be there at the end.
Okay, that's Mitchell Riggs in the 09 from Carbondale, Illinois. Well, thank you, Mitchell, for that in-race update. Dave, what do you think?
Well, you know, I mean, he said it right there, and it's kind of echoing what we've thought up here in the booth, is that there is a lot of aggressive moves here early on in this one. We're not even at the halfway point. We're working our 6th caution of the event, or 5th caution of the event so far. But, you know, coming to 1 to green, we're going to go back racing here, and we'll see if we can have a little bit more of a green flag run. Now, it doesn't appear as if we're going to have that big backup start like we had with Aaron Bean leading the field last time out. So it looks like as if we will not have that gigantic lead up to the green flag that we had on the previous restart, which could be interesting.
That's true, and even more in the number 69 car. Last pit on lap 32. Everybody else behind him just pit. He's got 20 lap older tires. He's a little lighter on fuel. Nearly there, about to the end of a fuel run, actually. By my calculations, he probably only has about 10 or so laps left in the tank, Dave.
Yeah, so this is a somewhat of a interesting move, I guess is the best way to put it, as Moore will come to the restart here in a P1, but needing a pit stop here before you know it. that 69 will have to come down the pit lane. So a nice restart hopefully for us here, as the 69 of Moore will lead us to the green. Bummersbach second, Brigelli third, Britton fourth, and Eckert fifth, and he backs him up, and we get going again. We're back underway from Indianapolis. Moore will stretch out, and we will see this field run to turn number 1, hopefully for a little bit of a green flag run here. We just had our longest green flag run of the evening, but we're still only 8 laps away from halfway.
26 cars in the field right now took the green flag. Quite a few DNFs so far tonight, Dave.
Yeah, and that is going to be the nature of these early cautions. And the field much strung out compared to how it was. Bummersbach to the inside, though. Kite and Bummersbach trying to make a move to the inside, and he will get it done. So move Bummersbach to the lead, and Moore holding off Kieran Brigelli as it stands. The 2 wildcard entries chasing down the defending Fuel IndyCar Series champion. And now, here goes Bummersbach. He's going to have to face the challenge from Moore, as these drivers still battling hard here, as Britton now moves to the 3rd spot.
Very close there between Patrick Britton and Kite Bummersbach going into turn 1 there. Close enough you'd almost be scared for a netcode incident. And now side by side with Kieran Brigelli.
Yeah, so Brigelli and Britton down the back straightaway once again, and now Mitchell Riggs and Johnny Eckert are into this. So the top 6 all caught back up, and we're going into turn number 3 once again.
And Dave, you have to wonder back there in the P6 position, Mitchell Riggs from Illinois, you just heard him talk about how he felt about the aggressive nature of the field tonight early on in the race. You've got to wonder if even with fresh tires and a full tank of fuel, if he's just going to sit back there and ride for as long as he can this evening.
Yeah, and we see the field go into turn number 1 once again, as Bummersbach will complete the pass, and now here he brings Brigelli in tow. So now the top 2 right back to how it was as they came off the pit lane, as now the field will start to shuttle around Stephen Moore. And
Brigelli gets Kite Bummersbach going into turn 3. Kite definitely, as we've stated earlier, has the experience, has the most recent experience of the entire field, being the defending champion in Fuel IndyCar League. He's been running these cars consistently once a week. He knows how this car handles on an oval. He definitely is probably tonight's strongest contender, especially throughout the racing we've seen in the first half of the race.
Yeah, crazy racing. We're still only 3 laps from halfway. So Bummersbach and Brigelli going into turn 2 this time. Gonna see what he can do off the corner, and Brigelli looks like he's got it done, but not quite. Here goes Bummersbach down the back straightaway, and now here goes Mitchell Riggs to the inside, and the driver that just talked to us about the aggressive driving with a slightly aggressive move going into turn number 3.
And P1 through 10 all under a blanket, as you would say, Dave, all well within 1 second of the leaders, and they're all just trickled back there. It looks like they're just waiting for their shot to get by.
And now here goes Mitchell Riggs, and a big power move by Riggs to get around second place Bummersbach, and is trying to complete the pass on Brigelli, and it looks as if he will not quite be able to do it, as now Bummersbach will draft off of Riggs.
Incredibly close racing here going to turn 3 here.
This is some fascinating stuff here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. They call it the greatest spectacle in racing for a reason. This is some, Joey Chitwood stuff that we're seeing here tonight. Some stunt driving, it feels like, almost formation driving, as they come down the front straightaway once again. And there's a distinct line of drivers trying to find a way by Brigelli, as Riggs will lead that time by, as now they will go into turn number 2. Riggs not quite able to complete the pass, though.
And Dave, as we're just 1 lap short of halfway in this 125-lap main event, they're fighting down the backstretch, tooth and nail. Kieran Brigelli, Mitchell Riggs, Kite Bummersbach for that 1, 2, 3 spot. And Brandon Ward in the 57 has now made himself known, and he's looking for something from P4.
Yeah, we haven't talked about Brandon Ward much tonight. He sits in the 4th spot and is now challenging for this race win and this lead, as now he is into the camera shot, and Johnny Eckert in 5th. So now it is. These drivers seeing it's halfway. It's time to go to the front. And now Mitchell Riggs, after about 3 laps of work, will finally clear Kieran Brigelli, new leader, 09 of Riggs.
It probably won't last long here, though.
Very much not.
The slingshot here in this setup as Kieran Brighelli goes inside and is side-by-side going into turn 3 against Mitchell Riggs. He'll take the lead from Mitchell Riggs going into 3 on lap 62.
So it took Riggs about 3 laps to get around Brighelli, and then it took Brighelli about half a lap to get right back around Riggs. That 27 car is hooked up here tonight.
And as the cars cross the start-finish line here, it's halfway for the CORT Indianapolis 500K. Lap 63 is your halfway point for the night.
Yeah, and you know what? Honestly, that time when they came across the line, it looked like a pace lap. It looked like a 220-mile-an-hour pace lap as those drivers were 2x2 all the way down the front straightaway going into turn number 1. But going into turn number 3, it's side-by-side for the lead, and Riggs will now take back the lead on Brighelli.
And Dave, it's funny you mentioned that. We were talking earlier about race pace as it gets further down the line into a stint. We're about 11 to 12 laps into this stint right now after the leaders pit last time.
Big block by Riggs on Brighelli there just a moment ago. Sorry to cut you off there, Chris, but really crazy racing at the front of the field, and Riggs will hang on to the lead.
It'll be interesting to see how race control handles these block situations as we get further into the race. They're side by side going into the chute, then 2, then the backstretch. Kieran Brighelli and Mitchell Riggs in the lead.
Yeah, this is some frantic type of racing, and there goes Brandon Ward. Brandon Ward says, I heard there's a party and I was not invited. I want in, as he runs in the 3rd position trying to make the pass in the top 2, but he's content to just sit back and watch them battle it out.
Brandon Ward has been quiet for most of the evening so far. Started P5 in that 57 Indy car, but he's been in that top 10 all night long, just riding along. It looks like the fire was lit under him after this last caution, though.
Yeah, it looks like he realized, hey, we're past halfway. It's time to go. And these top 10, and like I said just a moment ago, it looks like formation driving with this top 10. No one quite able to pull away, and it's leading to something that akin to seeing at the super speedways in NASCAR. It's almost looking like Daytona and Talladega here in Indianapolis.
Dave, with these cars, it looks almost like the Blue Angels down the backstretch.
Yeah, very much. They got the aero screen now. They may as well be Blue Angels.
And Kieran Brighelli takes the lead over again from Mitchell Riggs. They're still nose to tail, nose to tail. Brighelli, Riggs, Ward, Bomersbach, and Brett Black round out your top 5 for the CORT Indianapolis 500K. And Mitchell Riggs slingshots past Kieran Brighelli again to start lap number 66.
And you know what's crazy? The last 4 laps, we have had a lead change on each of those laps. We're up to 18 lead changes in this Indianapolis 500K, and we're only at the halfway point of this one, as now Brandon Ward tries to draft off of Mitchell Riggs for the lead, as Brighelli is proven to be a very difficult challenger to beat in the top spot. This top 10, we would love to focus deeper in the field for you folks, and we'll give a quick shout out to some drivers running it past the top 10. Andrew Hess is running 11th, Jeffrey Miller 12th, Julian Medor 13th, Giovanni Parham 14th, Joseph Cervone in 15th, Christopher Huerta in 16th, Alex Boffley 17th, Mike Husby in 18th, and Robert Hill and Zane Jackson rounding up the top 20. But this racing at the front of the field is just too good to look away.
And Dave, as we keep the TV view here on the front of the screen, I'll tell you what I've been seeing here in the second pack that goes 11th on back. Julian Medor and Jeffrey Miller for P11 and 12. Sorry, Andrew Hess and Julian Medor for P11 and 12 have been fighting there.
Contact! Contact at the front of the field. They keep it straight somehow. Brandon Ward and Kieran Brighelli absolutely made contact in turn number 3 that time around, and somehow, some way, despite running at over 200 miles an hour, keep it straight.
And that's not to leave Aaron Bean out of the picture either. He's fought his way back up into the 3rd position, passing Mitchell Riggs and Kite Bomersbach on that last lap. He's back in position. He has fresh tires and fuel and pit with everybody else on the last pit cycle.
Yeah, and here goes Bean to the inside. So move Aaron Bean to the 3rd position, now 2nd. And now he's going for the lead. Aaron Bean to the lead in the 20 car, trying to make the pass on Brighelli, and he will not quite be able to get it done in turn number 4, and he will do it. He will do it.
Aaron Bean will cross the start-finish line to start lap 69 in a very nice P1 position. There's only about 13 to 14 laps right now in this fuel window. We're looking at about lap 83 to 84 for these leaders to pit under green.
Aaron Bean absolutely making a big boy pass, as mentioned in our chat room just a moment ago. Aaron Bean is trying to do it again down the back straightaway. It's side by side going into turn number 3. and he will get it done again. So move Bean back to the lead, but we'll see Brighelli. He'll get the run off of 4, and this is some real academic situations right now. These drivers going to school right now to find out what will be the move at the end of this race, and it appears as if you do not want to be leading through turn 4 on the final lap if it stays like this.
And as the field goes to lap 70 with Brughelli in the lead over Bean, it looks like, as we expected earlier, Stephen Moore in the number 69 car pit in. He was at the end of his pit cycle, and it looks like that gamble did not pay off for him, unfortunately.
This is getting real good, as now here goes Bean back to the inside in 3. He gets the run in 3. But what happens is Brughelli is able to tuck in line, get the slipstream, and he'll get by him going down the front straightaway. You'll see it right here. Bean off of turn number 4, and Brughelli, just like I said, with the slipstream, able to make the charge back to the start-finish line, and Brughelli will take back the lead going into turn number 1.
And Dave, it looks like the field's going to come up on Stephen Moore pitting out here very quickly. We're going to have lap traffic here. Looks like being eaten up by the leaders in just a moment.
Yeah, and that's going to be the thing to watch for here as we ride on board with our race leader, Kieran Brughelli. These cars in the pack going to be running a lot faster than Brughelli on his own, so that will be something to watch for as Bean completes the pass, and you'll see it here coming off of turn number 4. We've seen it the last half a dozen laps or so. Here goes Brughelli back across, and he will take back the lead by the time they get back to the start-finish line. Some real throwback IndyCar type racing here at Indianapolis, and like I said just a moment ago, it's reminding me of when CORT back in the late 90s, early 2000s, when they would go to Michigan or California, places like that, they had the Hansford device, which created a major hole in the air, which allowed drivers to just slingshot by one another. That's what this race is giving me the vibe of. This is a real throwback.
That's right, Dave, and I actually spent a little bit of time this past weekend going back through and watching some highlights, some California pole runs, if you will, some 245-mile-an-hour runs, and this is very similar in nature to those runs of yesteryear.
Yeah, it's a real throwback for this Indianapolis 500K. Kind of fitting because it's a throwback to have a CORT Indianapolis 500K as the top 10 runs single file. I got to say, though, we've had some longer green flag runs now. I don't know if it's these drivers getting acclimated to the way that this race setup is driving, or if it's just a case where these drivers are finally, realizing, hey, it's time to go. We got to start completing these laps to get out of here at a decent time, and not just that, but also set ourselves up for the finish.
Well, Dave, it looks like since race start, the track temperature has come down a little bit. Track temperature currently at 109 degrees, partly cloudy outside in Indianapolis, Indiana at 73 degrees Fahrenheit, and the winds have died down a little bit, coming from the south at about 3 to 4 miles an hour. So I think once this track has got rubbered in.
Brughelli got the wall out of turn number 1. He keeps it straight, but he definitely made some contact with the outside wall, and now this will be interesting to see how much that will impede the 27.
Dave, it looks like Aaron Bean has a big run on him going into turn 3. That car may be damaged.
I could have sworn if he did not hit the wall, it was very close. But Brughelli, out of turn number 1, if you could check and confirm for me, that would be great. It appeared as if he got the wall coming out of turn number 1 last time by. As they go into turn number 1, Brughelli hangs on to the lead as they work around the slow car of Stephen Moore, or Tony Johns actually, in the 31. Unfortunately, Tony Johns going a lap down here at the moment, but we remain under green with 50 laps to go in the Indianapolis 500K.
Dave, I just want to confirm with what I saw on the instant replay with my own eyes. He did not, in fact, hit the wall. However, there wasn't enough room for a slice of paper there.
Very close indeed out there. And the lap car of Johns has split up this front 10 or so. They are now strung out a little bit, but the battle will continue for the lead. It's between Brughelli and Bean going into 1. And again, it's sounding like a broken record, but you're seeing it here on the screen. Brughelli gets by Bean on the front straightaway. Bean gets the run generated off of turn number 3 and into the south end of the Speedway, I believe, or north end of the Speedway here in Indianapolis. Gets through turn 4, and then Brughelli just passes right by him once again.
And Dave, as I was saying earlier, there are 2 distinct packs here at Indianapolis right now. 1st through 10th right now is one pack. The second pack is 11th through 23rd, and they're a considerable ways back, about 6 seconds back from the lead pack. A lot of the cars in that pack are damaged. They're being led right now by Julian Medor in the number 78 car, and they're all in a line similar to the lead pack cars. We're starting to come up too right now as the field goes around and starts lap number 77. We're within 6 or so laps of these cars being on the empty sign on the fuel gauge. They're going to need to come in under green. It's going to be very interesting to see if some of these cars from that secondary pack can somehow make it back up to the front.
I tell you what, as this run has gone on, Kieran Brighelli has worn out his tires slightly, and Brighelli has actually fallen a little bit back. He's now fallen into the clutches of Brandon Ward and Mitchell Riggs there. And as you mentioned just a moment ago, we are coming up on green flag pit stops, something these drivers have not done at all tonight. So that is going to be something to watch for. Who can get it woed up? We've seen the pros struggle with it in the iRacing IndyCar Challenge a few weeks ago. We've seen it at multiple racetracks on the ovals when they tried to woe it up for the green flag pit stops and end up wrecking. So we'll see if this will keep up the trend. These drivers, for some of them, it's been 4 years since they've attempted an IndyCar pit stop.
That's correct, Dave. And right now we're seeing all these drivers pit last on lap 52. Green flag flew at about lap 54. We're looking at a 28 to 30 lap window here on fuel. So right now we're looking at lap 82 to 84 being when that fuel window opens. However, unfortunately, that will not let you get to the end. That pit window right now opens right about lap number 95 to make it to the end on fuel. And that is an extremely tight number if you're trying to make it 30 laps on a green flag run.
Yeah, so you got to start wondering if those drivers running 11th back in the field, Julian Medor, Alex Boffoli, Johnny Parham, if they're saving some fuel, maybe they're trying to stretch it a little bit further on this tank and then stretching the next tank a little bit more to see if they can possibly play a shorter pit stop to take back the lead at the closing stages of this one. Yet another pass for the lead. We're up to 27 lead changes in this Indianapolis 500K. Absolutely exhilarating racing here at the greatest spectacle of racing, the Brickyard, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
And Dave, as you sit there and we see the numbers flash across the screen, 27 lead changes so far, lap 80 of 125 in this 500-kilometer event. We have two drivers right now pitting for fuel and tires, Tyler Tucker and John Long, the Washington, D.C. driver and the Tennessee driver, both pit for fuel. They're probably going to be sucked up and have been sucked up by the lead pack, will go one lap down. However, if this race stays under green, it'll be interesting to see how they cycle back through after pit stops. If, and this is a big if, you're looking for a yellow tonight and you're looking to make it to the end, that yellow is going to have to come right around lap number 92 at the very, very earliest.
And I tell you what, you're crunching the numbers. The stats people, the people in timing and scoring have crunched the numbers before this lap. The previous 3 laps, the margin at the start-finish line, 0.000. That's right. They were exactly tied the last 3 laps before this one, folks. This is some amazing racing at the front of the field. Maybe the most competitive racing we've seen in the championship online racing teams happening right here between Kieran Brighelli and Aaron Bean. What a duel going on here at the Brickyard.
And Dave, we're looking at the number 20 Home Depot car of Aaron Bean from Tampa, Florida. He's getting closer and closer and closer to the wall every lap he's out there. In the chutes, you could probably barely fit a hand.
Bean is coming in. So Aaron Bean...
Oh, and we have a wreck.
Oh, wreck.
Kevin Bingle in the wall hard.
Kevin Bingle in the wall. He's backwards. He's not triggering a caution as it stands. We stay great. And caution out. Caution will come out.
Kevin Bingle in the number 44 car, running off of last night's high of winning in the CORT Supercar Series at Summit Point. It looks like he just got up out of the groove, and that was it for him.
Looked like he got a little loose, and then he went flying. Bingle with a hard hit to the outside wall, running the
Very
cars
hard hit.
that were supposed to be run by Chris Sweat here tonight. Of course, Chris Sweat withdrew, and it looked like we were going to stay green before they decided to, I don't know if it was thrown or if the sim decided. But the important thing here is Aaron Bean got on pit road when the caution was out. He was on pit road. He was able to complete his service and will now cycle out in front of these cars who will surely pit on this caution.
Dave, that's quite possibly the luckiest pit cycle I've ever seen for a driver at Indianapolis.
Yeah, Aaron Bean, as you see him there, he's now out on the track, and now he's on his outlap, going to get caught back up to the field. But what a lucky break for Aaron Bean there in the 20, as if he was behind Bingle when that accident happened, then he probably would not have been able to pit, and probably would have been coming in and probably would have gotten bit by a closed pit road before the caution came out.
Now this will be interesting to see what Aaron does under this caution here. He has fuel, he has tires, the rest of the field doesn't. If he decides to stay out, he's probably going to be about 2 laps shorter on fuel than the rest of the field, who at green flag about lap 88 or so will be approximately 7 to 8 laps short on fuel to the end. It's a very tight race here, and with another caution, if you pit late enough in this caution cycle, you may very well be able to stretch it to the end. I wouldn't put my entire heart into that number, though.
Yeah, this is going to get really interesting here, because now not only is it difficult behind the wheel, now you got to start crunching the numbers on the calculators and trying to figure out what exactly is the right strategy here as we come to these final few pit stops of this Indianapolis 500K, as Bergelli will lead the field down the pit lane, and we've seen him get beat the last 2 times down the pit lane too, so it's going to be really, really interesting to see if he can exit out of the pit lane ahead of his closest challengers. As expected, Aaron Bean will make it past the field, and Aaron Bean will now cycle to the lead as we see the lineup on the pit lane coming down and seeing how it shakes out here on the lane. As we'll see here, Mitchell Riggs will get out, Johnny Eckert will get out, and Kaiden Bummersbach will all get out before Kieran Bergelli. So big power moves by those 3 drivers, and they will now cycle out in front of Bergelli out of the pit lane.
Now, Dave, as we got a couple of laps here, it looks like I've got a couple of drivers keyed up here. If we've got a moment,
yeah, let's see if we can pick up as well. Also, want to mention Brandon Ward was involved in that caution. We saw him running in the top 5 as well, and also Stephen Moore has stayed out on this caution, so he's on a little bit of an alternate pit strategy. He's got 15 laps on his tires, but has stayed out here in the 2nd position.
And Dave, it looks like I have the driver from Peoria, Arizona, Tony Johns. Do you have a copy?
Yeah, I got a copy.
Tony Johns, how are you doing this evening?
Lousy.
We saw you back there. You're currently in the 23rd position. It's been a bit of a rough night. You've been lapped once or twice. What seemed to be the problem early on for you?
The problem was there was a wreck ahead of me, and I had nowhere to go. Car flipped over my roof, and I got hit from behind and wrecked. And after I pitted to fix the damage, I just didn't have any speed left in the car, so I turned into the 2020 version of Milkaduno there, and then I just ran out of gas under yellow, so it's not been a great night for me.
Tony, you're a fan favorite among the CORT crew. What do you say to all the people who constantly ask for the Tony Johns update?
I say thank you for your interests. I wish I could provide you with a little more excitement and something better to cheer for, but it looks like tonight's not my night. Hopefully I'll be able to get back out in the least finish.
That being said, Tony, what do you think about the competition in the field tonight?
It's an interesting mix. We've got a lot of very talented and very fast people out there. We've also got a lot of very impatient people who are using up their equipment a little earlier than they should. Seeing a lot of impatience out there, especially from some of the newcomers to the series. I think if they had played it a little smarter there at the beginning of the race, we probably could have gotten a little farther with a little less torn up carbon fiber, but looks like it's a pretty exciting battle for the lead anyway up front.
All right, a wonderful note there from fan favorite Tony Johns. Dave, it seems the consensus is pretty clear here. Pretty aggressive driving tactics tonight from the field.
Yeah, and you know what? That's going to happen anytime you bring in some wild card entries, and especially at a place like Indianapolis. You know, you typically see that with having some wild card entries, some people that we don't see all that often or at all in the championship online racing teams. But yeah, Tony Johns was running a little bit deeper in the field, and unfortunately, looking like it's just been a nightmare for Tony, running in the 24th spot, and as you just mentioned, he ran out of fuel under the caution flag. So Johns probably was expecting to come in about, not that long before the caution came out. He's probably going to come in next lap, probably, if he ran out on a caution. So Johns, unfortunately, gonna have a poor finish. But you know what, Tony Johns, this is a really cool race, and Tony Johns was actually not quite around for the original run of the Chain Paints Championship Series, the IndyCar Series, and the Championship Online Racing Team. So for Johns to be able to make an appearance in one of our marquee events, albeit 4 years removed, but it's still cool that Tony gets to run IndyCars in Indianapolis under the CORT banner.
Dave, as the field takes lap number 87, the lights are off on the pace car, which means 1 to go. Aaron Bean is your leader. Last pit on 82, right as that caution flag came out. Stephen Moore is in second place. Last pit on lap number 69. The rest of the field behind him pit on lap number 84. What do you think the strategy is here tonight?
Well, this is going to be really exciting here because Bean here in the number 20 is going to do what he did about 2 restarts ago. He's backing up the field and is going to stretch him out a little bit and try and string him out a little bit. So you see Bean all the way back here, and if we could switch the camera shot real quick, you'll see just how far ahead the pace car is again. So this is something that we saw earlier on in this one, and you also notice the dashboard there at the bottom of the screen. He's in 6th gear. He is saving fuel. He is looking for that fuel number to make it to the end.
Dave, they will take the green flag for what could be the last restart on lap number 88. 37 laps remaining in the Indianapolis 500K when they come to the green flag. Aaron Bean is very slow entering the chute. He is bringing this field back and going to give him a classic Indy start like he did earlier. It's going to be very interesting to see as all of these drivers currently are about 7 to 8 laps short on fuel.
Bean, Moore, Riggs, Eckert, Bumbersbach, Bruggelli, Black, Britton, Hess, and Medor. That's your top 10 as we get back to racing here at Indianapolis. The green flag in the air. We're back underway as Bean will lead the field away. Bean had gotten a lucky break with the caution. Stephen Moore still has to come in to make it to the end. And, of course, Kieran Bruggelli did not have a good pit service once again and lost 3 positions on the pit lane, so we'll see how it shakes out as they head down the back straightaway. And now there goes Mitchell Riggs trying to make the pass on Stephen Moore. Moore will then slot back down into second, but here goes Kieran Bruggelli. Some aggressive moves in the 5th position on Kite and Bumbersbach, trying to make the moves up to 5th. As the front 2 get side by side. Now it's 3 wide for the lead. There goes Mitchell Riggs to the inside. They're 3 wide going into turn 1. Someone's got to give. And it will be Moore. Moore will jump out of the throttle. And now it's Riggs and Bean battling for the lead.
Impressive stuff from the front of the field there, going 3 wide and then 2 wide right behind them into turn 1.
Yeah, some amazing racing here at Indianapolis as Bean and Riggs now battle for the top spot. Stephen Moore running in the 3rd spot. Johnny Eckert is 5th, Kyton Bumbersbach is 4th, and Kieran Bruggelli remains 6th.
And again, even only after a green lap or so of running, it looks like the field has spread out into
They're going 3 wide again.
They're 3 wide again, going into turn 1 to start lap number 89.
Riggs to the top spot. Move Bean back down to 2nd. Now move Bumbersbach to the 3rd position. He's looking to get around Stephen Moore and Bruggelli in tow. Amazing stuff here at the front of the field. It is getting to be crunch time in the Indianapolis 500K. Bean rides behind Riggs, Bumbersbach in 3rd, Moore in 4th, Bruggelli in 5th as it stands. Brett Black, we haven't talked much about him. He's running in the 6th spot. He's just been lying in the weeds and now sits in the 6th position.
Brett Black, the driver from Bakersfield, California, and the Driven to Save Lives number 4 IndyCar. He's been sitting up there in the top 10 all night long. He started 6th. He's currently in 6th, and it looks like he's just been lying in wait, Dave.
Bumbersbach now moves to 2nd. He tries to make the pass on Mitchell Riggs. Now here goes Aaron Bean on the inside. It's going to be tight going into turn number 3. It's going to be Bumbersbach. So move Kighton back to the lead with some Texas-sized moves here late at Indianapolis. He moves to the top spot, but now Riggs trying to make the move on the inside. He now gets the run down the front straightaway. They head across the yard of bricks now, and now there goes Riggs to the top spot once again.
They start lap number 92, Dave, and Riggs is the top spot. Your top 5 currently: Mitchell Riggs, Kite Bomerspach, Aaron Bean, Kieran Brugeli, and Stephen Moore. Again, Aaron Bean pit right before the caution flag came out. Stephen Moore hasn't pit since lap 69. He doesn't have the fuel at all to make it to the end. Nobody in the top 10 does.
30 laps to go in this Indianapolis 500K, and it feels like they're racing with 3 laps to go.
Mitchell Riggs with the lower line going into the chute, and then entering the front stretch to take lap number 92. Kite Bomerspach's going to give it to him, though, going into turn 1. He has the high side. He's going to try and take P1 back. They're 2 wide going through P1 through 4. Riggs, Bomerspach, Brugeli, and Black.
Man, and now, just how we mentioned, Brett Black has now shown himself into this front battle. He's moved up to the 4th spot. Oh! Brugeli into the grass that time down the back straightaway, trying to get a run going. They're almost 3 wide going through turn number 4, and now Brett Black on the inside of Brugeli, as now Brett Black has moved to the 3rd position, and now Brett Black is looking to battle. What a race.
Race control has keyed up, and they're asking the drivers again to watch what they're doing as we start lap number 94. 31 laps in this event, and Dave, we're finally within that window. We're within the pit window. You can't make it to the end on fuel as you sit right now, and from here on out, if you pit, you'll be able to make it to the end.
Yeah, this is now, the window is open, and now it'll be interesting. 3 wide for the lead just a moment ago, as there goes Mitchell Riggs hanging under the lead, but they were absolutely hand on heart. 3 wide going into turn number 3 that time, and now Brugeli to the inside. He's made the moves, and now Brugeli, Kieran Brugeli, now moves back to the top spot.
The top 10 all within a second of the leaders here. It's anybody's battle tonight, but it really definitely seems like Kieran Brugeli's game to win.
And now Kite Bummersbach runs through turn number 2 wide. He will now move to the 4th position as Brett Black will now take the 3rd spot. But these top 2, Brugeli and Riggs, we watched it earlier on tonight. These 2 are battling hard for this race victory. But remember, they still got to come in. They still need fuel. They still need one more fuel stop before this thing's all said and done. As Brugeli still hangs on to the lead, but Riggs on the outside. And you know what? Every time that Brugeli has had a poor pit stop, he has recovered to take back the lead. And I tell you what, Brugeli here in the 27, this is a real statement race to a group of drivers who might not know all that much about him. He is absolutely impressing, at least me here tonight, albeit a little aggressive in cases, but has really done a great job here tonight.
And Dave, they're still 2 wide going into turn 4 and going onto the front stretch to meet the yard of bricks for lap number 97 of 125.
Couple cars coming in.
500K event. It looks like Jeffrey Miller and Cervone.
Yeah, Joseph Cervone coming in. So now we should start seeing the fuel mileage come into play. They know the window is open. They know they can make it from here. So we'll start seeing some strategy plays here. But right now, as the front of the field, there is Brugeli and Riggs side by side, Bummersbach and Black side by side for the 3rd position right behind them. What amazing racing we've seen here from Indianapolis here tonight.
And as the field goes into turn number 3 and now the chute into 4, both Miller and Cervone are exiting the pits. They are expected to get eaten up and lapped for the time being.
And we have noticed in earlier runs here, as now here goes Riggs to the inside. You can't even finish a thought. You can't even talk a thought. The action is not stopped here at Indianapolis as Riggs will now complete the pass, move Mitchell Riggs to the top spot, and Brugeli back down to 2nd.
And you have to wonder now, if you're in the front pack here and you're fighting for position, you're fighting for P1 and have been tooth and nail since the green flag dropped.
Big block! Burgelli into the grass! He's going to lose some ground. He's going to move all the way down to 4th, 5th, possibly even as far as 6th, as Burgelli will lose a significant amount of ground there. We've talked about his aggressiveness all night, and there you go. It bit him right there.
And I was about to say, Dave, you have to wonder when you're fighting in the front pack like this, at what point do you have to pit? Stephen Moore is in. He's run out of fuel almost. He last pit on lap number 69.
Yep, so now the pit stops are coming in, and now you got to start thinking, is Burgelli possibly thinking plan B? He's now out of the top 5. Trouble!
A wreck!
It's Hess, or no, they keep it straight. It's Ward and Burgelli. Burgelli falling back. Burgelli falls all the way down to 13th, and he's got wing damage.
And race control says they're staying green.
Wow, so Burgelli, who was the class of the field here tonight, has wing damage on the front end. And now we stay green, and that is going to impact the handling. And now here comes Burgelli down into the pits. So the one solace is he has gotten into his fuel window. The bad news is he is going to need to replace that front wing.
Huerta in front of him in the pits. Burgelli pitting as well. The rest of the field continuing to race through down the backstretch, 2 wide.
Yeah, the top 5 all running along one another. Bumbersbach, Black, Riggs, Eckert, and Bean. The top 5 all court drivers as it stands with 25 laps to go in the Indianapolis 500K. And folks, I tell you what, this is maybe the best race that the Championship Online Racing Teams has put on in quite a while, and I've seen them all.
And Dave, the race control chatter, it's very hot. The drivers are hot-headed right now.
Oh, so some tempers going on. Maybe them feeling that there should have been a yellow, but we stay green. The top 5 now all strung out. Top 6, really, as Julian Medor. Remember how we were mentioning Julian Medor might be saving fuel, might just be biding his time. He's now in the 5th spot. So Medor, the Halifax, Nova Scotia native, back into the top 5 as it stands.
And Julian sat back there, Dave, in that second pack I was talking about that was about 6 seconds back from the lead. That pack that was about P11 to P23. He was just sitting and biding his time that entire time until this last restart.
Yeah, this is getting real good. As now Brett Black on the inside of Kite and Bumbersbach. Black to the inside. He ran in the original TPCS, and now he takes back the lead. So Black to the top spot once again, and now all these drivers who were battling hard with Kieran Burgelli are now wondering, is it between us now? What kind of damage does Burgelli have? We saw him come in, and Burgelli did have a significantly longer pit stop. He actually had to get about a minute worth of repairs. He's actually way out of this thing. So this whole race is wide open now with less than 25 to go, as it appears as if somebody's coming down the lane now. Not quite sure on the number on that. That will be Aaron Bean in the 13th position. He is in the 20, and he is now down into the lane. So
and Dave, both Aaron Bean and Zane Jackson are in for pits right now, I was about to say, as the field meets lap 103 of 125. There's only 22 laps left in the field, and none of these guys in the front can make it till the end. You have to wonder, how long will you be willing to stay out and risk yourself to get fuel and fight for position?
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting. And also, you got to keep in mind the tires are wearing. These tires are not quite at the speeds that they were just a moment ago. They are about 7/10 slower as it stands from their best lap times. So Black, Bumbersbach, Riggs, Eckert, Medor, Boffley, Hill, Hess, Parham, and Britton. 2.8 seconds stretching out the top 10. And Chris, I think we can finally, for the first time in about 50 laps, take a breath here.
Dave, I don't want to speak too quickly, as the commentator's curse has been very apparent throughout Court Vision's run the past couple of months. But Brett Black from Bakersfield, California, currently holds the lead in the CORT Indianapolis 500K. He goes through the last chute and into 4. He will meet lap 105 as he crosses the yard of bricks. There are 20 laps to go in the CORT Indianapolis 500K.
Yeah, as we head into turn number 1 now, as Brett Black and Bumbersbach, as now they have kind of, they took a minute, they breathed for a minute, and now we get back going, as it looks as if they're all closing back up here for the front here, as now here goes Bumbersbach to the inside. He's going to make a pass on Mitchell Riggs, or on a lap car, actually. That is the lap car. I'm not sure, I can't quite identify who that is there. But they make a pass around a slower car as it stands, and now here goes Kyten Bumbersbach. He's going to try and make a charge on Brett Black as it stands, as now these drivers deal with lap traffic. As we see a puff of smoke there just a moment ago, doesn't appear to be anything out on track. So as it stands right now, the drivers who have come in, Aaron Bean leads the drivers who have come in on fuel. Actually, it's Stephen Moore in the 69. He is leading the drivers who have already came in. He is up by only a fraction, as this is the battle for the Delta lead as it stands. Bean and Stephen Moore have come in, and now Joseph Cervone and Jeffrey Miller behind them are battling for this top position as it stands. This is the Delta lead. They're currently battling for the 17th position, but right now, if it stays green and all the field pits, this will cycle out to be the lead.
And Dave, currently those cars are about 37 seconds behind Brett Black in the lead. Stephen Moore has been off kilter with his strategy all night long. He pit on lap 98. He was the first driver to pit. Aaron Bean pit next on lap 102. The field is about to meet lap 108 and are showing no signs of stopping.
Yeah, and
all of these guys in the front pack here, they are short on fuel by a considerable margin. Probably at least 5 to 6 laps at this point.
Yeah, so this is really puzzling. They're running the fuel tank dry because they're at about 23, 24 laps on fuel as it stands. So these guys can't make it. I don't know how they can make it. So these guys are looking and hoping for a caution as they go around our friend Tony John. Sorry, Tony, you're getting TV time for all the wrong reasons. Is now Tony Johns will get lapped once again as Black, Bumbersbach, Riggs, Eckert, and Boffoli. Hey, Alex Boffoli. We haven't talked much about Boffoli. He's running in the 5th spot. Robert Hill Jr. in 6th here late in the going.
And Tyler Tucker in the 55, John Long in the number 26, both pitting in.
Yep, so Tucker in, Long in, as now the field cycles down the front straightaway, and it really does feel like there's a calm before the storm here before these final pit stops.
And Dave, it looks like right on the mark, 38 seconds is about that time that you're going to need as a Delta. Aaron Bean right now, the leader of the Delta guys in P15, fighting Stephen Moore back and forth for the P15 spot, are exactly 37 seconds back behind Brett Black in the number 4, who is in the lead.
Yeah, and they're almost in the same camera shot right now. They aren't that very far apart on the racetrack. Bean and Miller and Cervone and Moore and all them are basically just slightly in front of this pack. In fact, if we ride on board with Brett Black, you can see them. They're just going to turn number 1 right now. So they are not that far out of this thing. And a lap here at Indianapolis is about 40 seconds. So it could be really interesting by the time we get to pit stops. And now, Kyten Bumbersbach, move him to the top spot as it stands. So we might start seeing some pit stops here, or we could see drivers trying to slipstream and save some fuel.
And Dave, Aaron Bean, and Stephen Moore are showing no signs of stopping as they fight for that proper P1 spot, which is P15 and 16 right now. But Cervone in the number 30, that Red Bull Toro Rosso car, and Jeffrey Miller from Indiana in the number 13, not very far behind. They're right in the rearview mirror.
Yeah, and they battle it out, but right now at the top of the leaderboard, the top of the pylon, Bumbersbach and Black going into turn number 1. Bumbersbach way high in 1, and now it'll be Bumbersbach and Black battling for this top position in the Indianapolis 500K. We are within 15 laps to go in this one. It's getting real dicey at the front. Bumbersbach will take back the lead, but again, these guys, they gotta come in.
David, coming to the line, it will be 28 laps since the last pit stop for Kyten Bumbersbach, Brett Black, and Mitchell Riggs. They're right at the end of the fuel tank. They cannot be running on anything more than fumes right now. You have to expect them in at the end of this lap. And we have drivers in.
Yeah, we got a significant amount of drivers coming in. There goes Mitchell Riggs, Robert Hill. Actually, Alex Boffoli looks like he got a little bit of damage. Johnny Eckert, a big chunk of cars coming into the pit lane.
Andrew Hess, Johnny Parham, Mike Husby, all in to pit on the end of lap number 111. Kyten Bumbersbach, Brett Black, Julian Medor, and Patrick Britton, all 1 through 4,
Brandon Ward as well.
Still pit last on lap number 84. You have to expect to see them in right now.
Yeah, so we'll see how this shakes out. Top 7 has not come in, and they will need to. We'll see if they come in this time. Yes, they will. So Bumbersbach, Brett Black will come down the lane. Tyler Tucker will swing on by as these drivers come into the pit lane, and it looks as if maybe might have seen Brett Black maybe get the wall there. No, it looks like it's just projection as Medor and Britton will stay out and lead another lap.
Julian Medor, Patrick Britton, both out. Roger Espinoza will pit last, as well as Brian Fletcher on lap 84. However, they're well far back of the lead.
Yeah, and now it gets real interesting. Medor and Britton, we'll see if they can stretch it out, but right now Medor a second up on the rest of the field, but is probably going to be making that hard left-hand turn down the front straightaway, and we'll see how it goes. But he stays out again. So maybe Medor here saved enough fuel, and maybe, just maybe, he thinks he can stretch it, but we're looking at 25-plus miles of stretching here. I don't see it.
And Dave, with Brandon Ward and Brett Black both pitting in, that leaves Julian out front, who hasn't pit yet. For the proper lead, Aaron Bean, Mitchell Riggs, and Robert Hill Jr. are all fighting for the lead. Aaron Bean is on 10-lap older tires than Kite Bomersbach, Mitchell Riggs, and Robert Hill.
Yeah, so that front, those drivers will cycle out to the lead whenever these leaders pit, but right now it is Medor who is staying out again. So Medor may be hoping for a late caution here, and I just want to state for the record, there are no overtime attempts in this event. This will be a 125-lap race. No gimmicks here, folks. It is exactly the advertised distance.
Dave, right now, the proper lead of the race is in Kite Bomersbach's hands. He's got a 2-second lead on Aaron Bean, Mitchell Riggs, and Robert Hill Jr. Aaron Bean and Mitchell Riggs have spent the last 2 laps fighting side by side and are just continually losing time on that Volvo Haribo number 37 of Kite Bomersbach.
Yeah, and Kite has actually lapped Brett Black, so I think Brett Black, Brett Black did get some damage on that run, so Brett Black did get the wall, it appears as if, and got some damage repaired. So unfortunately, Brett Black is not going to contend for this Indianapolis 500K. 10 laps to go in the Indianapolis 500K. 25 miles here as we see how this one shakes out. Medor being stalked by Patrick Britton at 1 second back, but again, the fuel numbers, the fuel is the key. Bumbersbach is 2 seconds up, and he is currently 4th, but will cycle out to the lead as it stands.
And Dave, right now, as it stands with Kite in the proper lead in P4, Julian and Patrick Britton in the P1 and 2 spots are only 34 seconds ahead of Kite. It's not enough time, based on what we've seen with pit deltas right now, to put them back out in front of the pack.
Yeah, and you know what? Looking at it right now, Medor and Britton are the last 2 who need to come in. They are stretching it very thin to win this Indianapolis 500K. Medor out of Halifax, Nova Scotia. Patrick Britton out of Southern California. I don't think you can find 2 drivers further apart in this field. Yet only a second separated on the racetrack. Some amazing racing here tonight, and we're getting a dynamite finish here too. As Medor is in, as now Medor and Britton are in, so they could not stretch it all the way. So those 2 will now come in, and now it is between Bumbersbach with a 2-second lead on Aaron Bean and Mitchell Riggs, running for now effectively 2nd and 3rd.
Dave, I don't know if they can make that gap in 20 miles. These Indy cars and this current Indianapolis 500K setup that they have, that's been switched out since last week's qualifying bid, has been very racy. There's been a lot of slipstream action amongst these cars. However, with that much of a gap and only 20 miles to go as Kite Bomersbach crosses the line in that number 37 Indy car, I don't know if they have enough time to cover that.
We watch Medor exit the pit lane. He is the leader, but there goes Kite and Bumbersbach. He will now reel him in, and now here he goes, right past him. He's going to pass him on the pit exit. No, not quite. Here comes Medor. He's still under power. No, Bumbersbach will take the lead. But now
Medor does
Medor
everything he can to stay in that slipstream going into turn 3.
But now Medor might be the closest challenger for Bumbersbach. Could he have stretched the fuel perfectly to set himself up with a one-on-one fight with Kite and Bumbersbach with some assistance from the lap car of Brett Black?
Dave, it looks like Julian Medora has caught that slipstream of the number 4 lap car, Brett Black, and we said it earlier, we didn't think there was going to be enough time with the gap that he had on the rest of the field, but after a 37.1 second stop in the pits, it looks like Julian is within striking distance of Kite Bommersbach.
Yeah, here we go. Going into turn number 3. Once again, Medora is going to be the closest challenger for this race. So it is between Bommersbach and Medora for the top 2 and the title of Indianapolis 500K champion. And the field behind them is reeling them in. Riggs and Bean are now in the same camera shot. This is going to funnel right back to being a solid pack with the final few laps remaining. Could we be so fortunate? Brett Black might be a spoiler in this front battle, and I think Brett Black is getting out of the way, at least to the front 2, as now it is all Kite Bommersbach having to deal with all of Julian Medora as Brett Black starts to move out of the way of these front runners.
And Dave, as the field comes around into the chute, exiting 4 and crossing...
Bommersbach is going to get a charge from Medora to the lead. They go into turn number 1 side by side, and now Medora to the lead. Medora to the lead. Bommersbach still challenging on the top side. And you got to figure if a caution comes out now, that'll be the race. Here comes Mitchell Riggs right behind him in the 09.
And don't leave out Aaron Bean in the number 20 Home Depot car. He's in striking distance in P4. Robert Hill Jr. of Canada right behind him. There's contact.
Bean keeps it straight somehow. My God, what a save by Bean, but he's out of this one.
They cross the line. 4 to go. 10 miles to go in the Indianapolis 500K.
Medora trying to reel in Bommersbach. And now here comes Mitchell Riggs. What a finish we got ahead of us here at Indianapolis if it can stay green. Medora and Bommersbach side by side through turn number 2. As now they almost make contact. It's so tight. It's so tight. Bean out of this one with some contact. He has recovered well. He is now still running in 6th. He's still in this pack. But now Andrew Hess, a name we haven't talked about all night, sits in the 4th spot and is mounting a charge of his own. Robert Hill in the 3rd position, trying to get around, and Mitchell Riggs appears to have some damage to the back end of that number 09 machine.
Andrew Hess with a big... Oh, there's contact!
Caution is out, that will end it! Julian Medora or Mitchell Riggs will win this thing. After some contact at the front of the field, and Mitchell Riggs, the pole sitter, appears to be leaving here with the victory. Kite Bommersbach 2nd, Aaron Bean 3rd. What a finish.
Dave,
and we will end it under yellow.
What a race.
My God, folks. You cannot script what we saw tonight. Let's take a look at what happened there, and I have a feeling that there will be some arguments over that one there, and let's see what happened here between Robert Hill.
It looks like going into turn 1, Andrew Hess may have got right into the back of Robert Hill, turned him, and that was what ended it for him. Hill and Julian Medora, unfortunately. Julian, after sitting out there very, very long time, biding his time, pitting very late, unfortunately gets caught up in that wreck and is currently sitting way back in the 13th position.
Yeah, Robert Hill doing a 50-50 grind on the safer barrier in turn number 1. But unfortunately, was running in the top 5, but will now end up in the 15th position. But Mitchell Riggs currently despite the rear end damage, we were a little worried about that coming down the stretch here. But it looks as if Mitchell Riggs will absolutely leave here with the victory. There will be no green-white checker. There will be no green-white checker here. And we will see how this goes here with 2 laps to go.
Dave, as we sit here and wait for the field to come back around and try and meet the checkered flag in approximately 5 miles, I believe we do have a driver here.
Yeah, we do have this here, and we'll see how it shakes out here. But with the final lap, you never know what could happen. So we'll see what happens here. As we ride under the caution flag as we'll see how it shakes out. 2.5 miles left in our Indianapolis 500K. White flag in the air under the caution flag. Mitchell Riggs just needs to bring it 2.5 miles home for this Indianapolis 500K. Somebody will actually be getting the wave around. It's the 04 car of Brett Black. And folks, I tell you what, despite the fact that this one is ending under the safety car, that was amazing. Chris, I don't think I've ever seen a race as entertaining, as edge of your seat, as fascinating, as strategic, and as just plain fun as we saw here tonight.
Dave, I told you last night during the CORT Supercars round from Summit Point, CORT World Series is what got me back into sim racing, and it's been shown here tonight that CORT World Series action definitely is where it's at.
Yeah, what an amazing display by the drivers of the championship online racing teams, CORTRacing.com. And, they took 4 years off from these Indy cars, and they did not disappoint here tonight. They did not disappoint here in the championship online racing teams, and we'll see how it shakes out here when they come to the line. I tell you what a recovery by Andrew Hess. Did not talk much about him. He's going to end up finishing 4th. Johnny Parham was sneaky quick all week and will leave here 6th. So a great run for Parham. Justus Servone, who had to qualify his way in, was one of the last few cars to make it in. Wound up 7th. Jeffrey Miller 8th. And, Mitchell Riggs, what else is there to say? Mitchell Riggs did an amazing job. He qualified on pole, was just in the top 5, did not really make any aggressive moves, and now will leave here with the Indianapolis 500K trophy. And you know what? That goes with his Daytona 500K that he had earlier on in the season, the Daytona 250 championship that he had. So Mitchell Riggs under the safety car and behind the pace car, but nonetheless, Mitchell Riggs will now cross the yard of bricks. He is a winner of the Indianapolis 500K. Kyten Bombersbach 2nd, Aaron Bean 3rd, Andrew Hess 4th, Mike Husby 5th, Johnny Parham 6th, Joseph Servone 7th, Jeffrey Miller 8th, Tyler Tucker 9th, Alex Boffoli 10th. What a finish here tonight.
And Dave, it looks like as we key up the microphone here on the radio, we have the driver from Carbondale, Illinois, Mitchell Riggs. You've just won your first Indianapolis 500K. How does it feel?
Feels great, man. It was some intense racing all night long, but good to get it done. That's 2 big races. I got the 500, the Daytona 500, and I got this under my belt, so good season so far.
We talked to you earlier about the type of racing that was going on in the field. You said it was pretty aggressive. Did it continue throughout in your eyes?
Yeah, and to be honest, I think that was what you had to do to be up front to stay, because the setup, the draft on the setup was humongous. So, you got to put these moves on people to stay up front, and you got to do something that you probably wouldn't do in any other car or any other setup to stay up front. But yeah, the racing was a little wild for sure.
Mitchell, can you tell us a little bit about the pit strategy that you guys went through? Did you have a set pit time for the last pit stop, or was it just off the cuff?
Well, we knew that we had to pit and we weren't going to make it, so I saw other people pitting and I figured, now's probably the perfect time to pit. You don't want to be the first one, but you don't want to be the last one either. So, and you want to have a good group of guys around you so you can kind of slingshot. So we did that. We had a good group of guys. I had Robert there helping me. So yeah, it was fun.
And Mitchell, is there anyone, as you line up on the yard of bricks, is there anyone you want to thank tonight for that win?
I just want to thank Dave for putting this on. That was a hell of an event. I want to thank Husby for having me on his team. It's been great to be on his team. Got a lot of wins with him. All the guys that were hanging out in my TeamSpeak, and anybody that was watching tonight. I'm sure you had a great time watching. So yeah, for sure. That's the guys I want to thank.
All right, and that is our Indianapolis 500K champion, Mitchell Riggs, fresh out of the car there, and is celebrating this one here tonight at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. What a race we've seen here tonight. We'll try and catch up with the rest of our top 3 here tonight, but before we get any further, let's take a look at our finishing results for the CORT Indianapolis 500K. Mitchell Riggs with the victory. Kyten Bummersbach second. Aaron Bean, what a recovery after the contact late in that to finish third. Andrew Hess fourth. Mike Husby fifth. Johnny Parham sixth. Joseph Servone seventh. Jeffrey Miller eighth. Tyler Tucker ninth. And Alex Bothley in the 10th position. Christopher
Dave,
Huerta.
what an event.
Yeah, Stephen Moore, 12th. Julian Medor, 13th. Patrick Britton, 14th. Robert Hill, 15th. Johnny Eckert, 16th. Espinoza, Fletcher, Long, and Black, 17th, 18th, 19th, 20th. They will technically be the last cars on the lead lap, as Brett Black will get the wave around under that last caution. Brandon Ward, 21st. Tony Johns, 22nd. Zane Jackson, 23rd. Kieran Bergelli was class of the field, but that damage ended up finishing him off in 24th. Kevin Bingle, 25th. Jake Finch, 26th. Ricky Butler, 27th. Nick Stoller, 28th. Travis Ellington, 29th. James Gutta, 30th. And you're starting to see the guys who just unfortunately had bad runs. Taylor Hayes, Brian Scheibler, and Dylan Gooden are last three drivers who attempted tonight's Indianapolis 500K. And now we will catch up with the driver of the number 37, if we can. We will catch up with Kyten Bummersbach, who will end up leaving here with a second place finish here tonight. And Kyten, a second place finish here tonight. If it stayed green, did you think you had anything for Mitchell Riggs? He did have a little bit of rear end damage. Do you think that rear wing damage would have impacted him possibly holding the lead there?
Oh yeah, I think I think I would have won that had we gone green all the way to the end, because I was playing the long game there, and I just got caught out by caution, which happens sometimes. But a good run all around. I'm happy to come out here and show I've got some prowess in some form of racing.
Yeah, you're coming off a rough night last night, but this IndyCar, it's your bread and butter. You have a championship over in the Fuel League with this automobile, but you come into tonight. How excited were you to showcase what you basically know at the end of the day is kind of your wheelhouse with these IndyCars?
It was a great opportunity, and I had a lot of fun doing it. I wish people would have raced calmer. I didn't mean to be so aggressive today. It worked out in the end, but I don't think it's a secret that that 27 car was super aggressive, and everybody kind of had to match the tone that he set, whether or not we wanted to. And it resulted in, I'm sure, a good show, but it was not the most fun to participate in at all times. But once it got kind of there to the end, it was really fun. So.
And lastly, you come into this race, you qualified well, you end up finishing second. It's a standalone event, but you got to be looking at this to possibly create some momentum coming down the tail end of this CORT season.
Oh, for sure. I'm looking to get, I think my first top 5 of the season in the Cup Series, and then I'm also looking to bounce back at Sebring and on the road stuff. So. Hoping I can do that. Fingers crossed. It's going to be a tall task now. I haven't even looked at the points with Jeckert on Mondays, but I'm sure he's got a big, nice, sizable advantage that I'll have to overcome. But I'm feeling good after this race, so fingers crossed.
Anybody want to give a quick shout out to for this second place finish here tonight? I mean, it's still a very impressive when you factor in how many drivers were in this show.
Oh, for sure. First off, I want to thank the entire Digital Apex squad. Patrick Lindsay, Travis Ellington, Chad Holmes, and Roger Espinoza. And then I want to give a shout out to Mitchell Riggs. Him and I were, not teammates, but we were working together kind of tonight. And, I feel like I deserved that win, but so did he at the same time. There's a few of us up there that could have been, race winners. And so if I couldn't come out on top, he's the guy that deserves it.
Alrighty, well, thank you very much, Kite, for your time. We'll let you get back to your team.
Thanks, Dave, for everything you do.
All right, well, that's Kyten Bummersbach, your second place finisher here tonight. And now Chris Burke has caught up with our third place finisher here, Aaron Bean.
That's right, Aaron Bean from Tampa, Florida, finishing third. Aaron, you had a very strong run there at the end, and it looks like you had the fuel strategy all planned out the right way. It just didn't work out in the end.
Yeah, no, I had a plan coming into this all along to just take it easy early and then just go with like 50 to go, but things changed after a bunch of the early cautions and the way the guys up front were driving, so I had to be on it like almost immediately at halfway. And yeah, I'd like to think I was really competitive tonight, and I gave it everything I had in like the last 10 laps there, and it just came up short.
From the booth there, you looked extremely competitive all night, Aaron. What was going through your mind with regards to the aggressiveness of the field early on in the race tonight?
I hated how aggressive we were early, considering the length of the race, and it was just starting to get on my nerves, and I was just kept on watching and just like waiting to see where the guys that were being overly aggressive were finally falling off, and it clicked a little around halfway when I saw the guys were starting to get squirrely in the rear, and I just immediately knew what I had been saving all race and just went for it at that point.
And it looked like it worked out pretty well. You pit away from the rest of the field. Lots of drivers decided to stay out late. Luckily for you, you caught a really, really good yellow there late in the field. Did that help or hinder you when you pit right as that yellow came out on lap 88 or so?
That one, it probably helped me that it came out because I don't think I was going to catch around a pair of lap cars like I did on the last one. Basically what I was trying to do was get myself enough separation because I figured we'd have a few green flag stops. And I just wanted to be away from other cars so I could just pit at my own pace, not to be blocked by anyone, just maximize my time on pit road, or minimize my time on pit road. And yeah, everything was just kept on falling into my lap, and I didn't realize that I could have a race like this, considering how most of mine generally go with CORT, and it was just really invigorating, more than anything.
Aaron, the number 20 Home Depot machine looked amazing on track tonight. Is there anyone you want to thank for that third place finish tonight?
Yeah, I got to thank Julian Medor and Tony Johns, who were working with me all race, basically being my teammates tonight. And again, thanks to CORT and everyone behind putting this on such short notice.
And we thank you, Aaron Bean. Aaron Bean, the number 20 Home Depot machine, finishing third in tonight's CORT Indy 500K. Dave?
Yeah, and I tell you what, Chris, we're wrapping things up here in the Indianapolis 500K. Mitchell Riggs, your winner, and you can see the whole running order right there on that pylon right there at the 33 finishers of this Indianapolis 500K. And you know what, Chris, we come into the night and we were expecting a good race. I don't think we were quite expecting this good a race.
Absolutely not. This was a phenomenal event, Dave. This has definitely been one for the books for CORT, and we will be talking about this one for years to come. It was very entertaining from the get-go. Aggressive natured driving from the start made the whole field get into it for us.
Yeah, that was amazing, and it was really exciting, and you know what? We'll see if this is going to be a yearly event or not, but I tell you what, this was some really exciting stuff by the Championship Online Racing teams. And Chris, I'll let you get your final thoughts in here tonight, and we'll wrap things up.
Well, Dave, coming into tonight's event, I didn't get a chance to catch the qualifying until a tape-delayed stream, and I knew from the get-go there that the Indy 500K was going to be a good event tonight. Coming into tonight, there was some outliers, some guys we had never seen before in CORT competition. We didn't really know what they were going to show, but it definitely showed that those guys coming out here were looking to CORT for that competitive edge, and they definitely got it. Kieran Brugelli came out and showed he had a lot of competition in him, as well as the number 69, Stephen Moore, who had quite the pit strategy coming into the very last pit stops, but just couldn't capitalize on it. Dave, it just goes to show you, throughout this entire event where we've had CORT Vision on the last couple of months, it puts on some of the best competition that there is in esports right now, and especially in sim racing. And it's been a very good time to enjoy sitting in the booth beside you, sir.
Yeah, and it's been a blast, and I'm happy that we could close out our Tuesdays with such an amazing event like this one here for the Championship Online Racing teams. But we wrap things up here, and we hope you were entertained here with the Indianapolis 500K. Mitchell Riggs, your winner. And we will be wrapping things up here. So from my good friend Chris Burke, who has helped me last night and tonight with this CORT Vision project. And again, thank you so much, Chris. It's been a pleasure. And to thank you to the 56 drivers who took a qualifying time, the 62 who sent in an entry, and the 33 who started this show, and the one driver who won it, Mitchell Riggs. I want to say thank you very much to everybody. And we hope you were entertained. I know I was. I don't know about you guys. I barely got a voice left, and I still got 2 races left this week. But, I hope you were entertained. So for all of us here at CORT Vision, Chris Burke, David Amboys, so long, everybody. Mitchell Riggs, your Indianapolis 500K champion.